I better get through this pretty quickly. Alright, we're taking the glasses off. Might put them back on later. Alright. Starting out. I almost just spoiled the entire ranking. Thank God the picture showed up on this side. Alright. At the number 40 spot in the Survivor tier list ranking is good, I gotta find Survivor One World. Not only was this in the middle of the dark ages of Survivor, but from the very first episode, you knew who was gonna win. Also, in case you didn't read the title, major spoilers throughout the entire tier list. So if you don't want to be spoiled, they're going to start right now. Alright, it was super obvious from the very first episode that Kim was going to win. Every single person in this season will bring Kim to the end except for Troyzan. And Kim beat every single person at the end, including Troyzan. So there is almost no situation in this season that Kim doesn't win. It is so unbelievably dominant that it is unreal boring. You don't need to watch the season. You can watch the finale if you really want to see Kim win. But basically every episode is just leading into her winning. In the beginning, also the idea of One World is like sort of interesting, but it's also like, I don't know, it's so weird. The tribes are split by genders, and they all lived on the same beach, which just like the entire time you're with the other tribe, so you're never like building your bonds with your tribe members in the way that you would if you were on separate beaches. I don't know, not enough notable characters. The notable people on this season is literally Kim and Troyzan, and then there's like maybe like Tarzan, Kat, Monica, Colton, who quits. Like, I don't know, it's just a bad season and it lands at 40. You wish they would bring Troyzan back? Simon, you were close with Thailand, but not quite. The number 39 season is not Thailand. It is, in fact... God, finding this is going to be a pain. Worlds Apart. On paper, like if you see the results, this season seems okay. You get Joe for the first time, and he's super likable at this point in time. There's like a majority alliance, and there's one underdog, and they just can't get the underdog out. The underdog wins his way all the way to the end, winning 5 of the 6 last individual immunities, and has an idol the one time he doesn't win. But what really makes this season bad is that the cast is so unlikable. Will, Rodney, and Dan are some of the worst some of the worst people casted for the show that I've ever seen. Maybe not Rodney. Rodney at least is a character and was really good. But Will, I fucking hated him. Dan is the absolute worst. They all treated Shireen horribly. Tyler was super boring. Carolyn was at least okay, but I mean that didn't really do much. The Joaquin boot was cool, but that was pre-merge. Like Sierra Dawn Thomas, who the fuck is she? Hallie, and they both came back. That's crazy to me because they all suck. Without Mike, this season is number 40 without a doubt. And even with Mike, it's number 39. It's just such an unlikable cast, just barely saved by a player winning out from the final 9, which does not make for a great season. But that is number 39. I didn't realize that Shireen was bad in Sequester, but, you know, I believe that. 1 second, I gotta pour myself a little bit of a drink. Alright. Nah, Simon, you jumped the gun a little bit before. But number 38. Dude, I'll actually watch Sequester. Number 38 is, in fact, Survivor Thailand. Survivor Thailand. Let's see. Brian is an asshole. Clay, he sucks. Shien's okay. That is all of the notable people from this season. That is 3 people. I'm pretty sure there were, 16 people on the season? Something like that. And just like the way that the season plays out, there's like a weird fake merge at like the final 10 where they came together and everyone thought they were going to be merged, but they didn't actually. And then Brian's tribe won the next 2 tribal immunities, giving him a 5-3 advantage going into the actual merge at 8. And at that point, Brian's alliance dominated. Everyone in his alliance is going to take him to the end. Once it was down to 5, Brian, blindsided some of the people in his alliance, wins out, gets to the end, and almost loses to Clay, who is the biggest goat in all of Survivor. Maybe not actually, but this guy is bottom tier. Like, he is awful. And just like, Brian's gameplay is the only interesting thing about this season. And he's a horrible person, so it's like he doesn't even have that much going for it. But with that, there only being 3 people, I can literally only remember Brian, Shien, and Clay from this season, and that's disgusting. I'm honestly surprised that I didn't put Thailand like down worse, but it is what it is. It's at number 38. It's not too high up. Simon, you're jumping the gun a little bit on every one. You're so close. But yeah, I'll definitely he gets called sexist or racist no matter what. Is he sexist and racist? Simon, again, close, but not quite. Also, I'm very surprised that I put this one. Like, I made my ranking pretty carefully, but now I'm like doing this. There were a few that like I had really low, and then I switched around. This one I'm surprised I didn't switch around. Oh, he's just a normal guy. And that is Survivor. God, it is so hard to see these things. Nicaragua. In Nicaragua, we have Fabio. Fabio is very funny, but he has no idea what happened at all during the season. He never had power, he was always on the outside, and he just was never picked off or won at the right time. The tribes were divided by age, which definitely gives an advantage to the younger people. They had this weird twist called the Medallion of Power, which sucked. It didn't do anything. It was just like you had it and like you could use it for an advantage in the next challenge, but then it would give it to like the other tribe. And I think it was only used like once or maybe twice and didn't really like impact that much. I don't know. It's a weird sort of twist. Pros, it did have Hall of Famer Jimmy Johnson. That's about it. You get to the end of the game. There's the double quit on day 28, which is just so crazy to me. You make it 28 days, and then not only 1, but 2 people quit in Nyanka and Purple Kelly. That's nuts. And then you're left to basically at the final, 5 with Fabio. No, you're at the final 6, Fabio and like the main alliance. And Fabio just wins out. He wins out to the end, and that's his only way to the end. Nobody can beat Fabio, so he just wins. A couple other funny moments with Marty telling Fabio that he's a grandmaster in chess when he's just not. Like, I just think that's funny. But yeah, I mean, like, the notable people on that season is Fabio, Marty, Nyanka, who quits, Chase Rice, who's a big country singer now, Brendo, who comes on a later season. But like, not like, I don't know. It's just the gameplay on this season is weird. Like, Fabio had no idea what was going on. But a fun fact is that Brenda appeared as one of the 26 models on Deal or No Deal after the season, so that's pretty cool. I definitely think that I should have had this season ranked a little bit higher, but it's too late. Also, Simon, Fiji doesn't come on for a bit of time. We'll get there eventually, though. We got a while. I'll try to pick it up a little bit because we're only 10% of the way through. All right, next one. I told you jumped the gun a little bit earlier, and that is because this is going to be found in a second, I hope. Survivor Redemption Island. The whole premise of this season is just Boston Rob versus Russell from the argument they have in the Heroes versus Villains reunion when Boston Rob says that he could take on Russell any day one-on-one. And they made a whole season out of it. And the thing is that Russell never stood a chance. When you go to like the first episode, you've got the 2 tribes of 8, and then Boston Rob and Russell come in. Both tribes just really want Rob. Nobody wants Russell. They all hate Russell. And it shows in the season when Russell gets voted out third, and then Rob steamrolls his way to the end and wins. Also, I find it convenient that they added Redemption Island on Boston Rob's 4th time, just to make sure. And especially at this time when he was probably like the 2nd or 3rd like winningest player when it came to like immunities and stuff like that. But what makes this dominant performance more entertaining to me than One World is that Boston Rob only handily wins in the final 3 scenario that he gets against Philip and Natalie. Regardless, he is very easily able to get there. And bring that Philip and Natalie to the end with him. But it is worth noting that it makes it more interesting since he could have theoretically lost had he lost the final immunity. And Ashley went to the final 3 with him instead. But I don't know. The newbies were some of the worst players out there. Boston Rob had no problem being his mafioso self and completely steering the direction of the entire season, which puts it in the bottom tier for me. Blindsiding that was cool, though. Him getting voted out 2nd, winning Redemption Island duel after duel after duel, and as soon as he gets back, Boston Rob's like, nah, I'm gonna vote you out again. And then votes him out, and then he wins duel after duel after duel, and then loses the last one. I always thought that was pretty funny. But, yeah, not too many great characters. We do get Andrea, who comes back. We get Francesca, who's, the 2-time first boot. Philip's a great character. I like Philip. But that's really about it. Alright, now we're moving on to the C- tier. I agree, Simon. Also, you are correct that these ones are coming soon-ish, but not quite yet. Next up, we have Survivor Marquesas. I'm going to edit this part out of the YouTube video. Only watched half of this season. Only watched the Boston Rob parts and then the finale. But, I still know, what happens and everything. Vesepia has become too underrated of a winner to the point where she's just, almost overrated. But she's cool, so it's fine. I do like her strategy. At this point in time, you are able to bring a personal item with you to the island. And also at this point in time, the Final 4 immunity challenge had always been a trivia thing about your past contestants. So what Vesepia did is that she brought a notebook as her item, and throughout the course of the season she would write down stuff about just her fellow tribe mates, just about their personal lives and stuff, and then study that so she could win that Final 4 immunity. And that's exactly what she did. She blew it out of the park, and it saves her. She would have gotten voted out at 4, I'm pretty sure. And then at Final 4, there was it was a rock draw because there was a tie, but instead of it was a tie, 2 votes going to Kathy, 2 votes going to Nalia. Vesepia had immunity, and then there's old Pascal who's got 0 votes. And then instead of going to fire, they do a rock draw, and Pascal goes home even though he had no votes, which is pretty sad. You get to the final immunity. Kathy's definitely the biggest threat to win, and then Vesepia, and then Nalia. Kathy steps down first during final immunity, and then Vesepia is kind of just a boss bitch, and it's just alright, I'll step down, Nalia, if you just take me. And then Nalia was just oh yeah, that's fine, even though Vesepia was aligned with Kathy. So that was kind of boss. Other than Vesepia, though, introduction to Boston Rob. Played the first mafioso game at this point in history. A lot of the stuff that was said would not fly nowadays, but that's just, the time that was in. But the season as a whole is just kind of boring to me. Old School Survivor really needs to hit the right spot for me, and it just didn't on this season. But there are still some notable players, like obviously Boston Rob, Kathy, Bisepia, Sean, maybe even like John Carroll, Pascal. Just a few names. But it's not a bad season. I just don't love it. All right. This next one really hurts. This was the toughest one for me to rank in terms of bottom tier ones. Yeah, that also is crazy that she's like the only black woman to win. But Simon, I'm so sorry. I have a lot of stuff to say about this. It's Island of the Idols for me. Here's the thing. I've got a lot written down about this. Obviously, the reason that this is so low is because of the Dan Spilo situation. It tanks this season into oblivion, which really sucks because people were here to play this season. In the beginning, you got the Jason blindside on the steal a vote, or on the was steal a vote or cancel a vote, where Elaine plays that. Also in my notes here, I have it as also, what the fuck? Dean is 29 and Tommy is 26. For whatever reason, I thought Tommy was older than Dean. But anyways, you have the Jason blindside on the steal a vote. You have the Jack and Jamal moment, which was awesome, where Jack calls the buff a do-rag. Jamal handles it so maturely, and Jack like so readily owns up to his mistakes and makes such an effort to learn from it. And it's just like such a good moment, and like, I don't know, Jamal's just so awesome and like so good with his words and mature, and he's the best. There's past the merge, there's the like they split it into two different tribes for that one challenge, and Tommy is like on a 1v4. And then he ends up not getting voted out, and instead Missy gets voted out, which is good because I hated Missy. DK Chillin shows up at the end of the season, like with the advantages and immunities and stuff, and he's just so funny. You have Nora being Nora the entire season. You've got Tommy outplaying Lauren at the end, not needing advantages, not needing any idols or immunity wins, and then still getting Nora to take him to the end instead of making him play in fire making, excuse me. The gameplay was so good, but I can't rank it too high because Dan is the worst. He is actually the worst Dan. He's worse than Worlds Apart Dan, which is crazy. But I mean, like, obvious. Kelly is awesome. Even the twist is so goofy. It's kind of wacky. But I am glad that like the winner wasn't like super determined by Island of the Idol. Like, he didn't need advantages from there necessarily. I mean, like, you do need Dean's Idol Nullifier against Janet. But oh my god, just the cast on this season. You have Tommy, Dean, Nora, Janet, Lauren, Jamal, Kelly, Karishma. I forgot about Karishma. Elaine, even like Aaron, Jack, Jason, Elizabeth, like so many people. Without Dan, high B tier. With Dan, I can't put it very high, but I would rewatch this season without Dan 100%. Yo, Dwightley, what's going on? Tommy has grown on me. Like, as soon as Tommy won, like, I would like analyzing his game. It's so like he plays the best social game. Tommy is my number 2, like, out of like one-time players and winners. He's my number 2 player of all time that's only played once and won. Simon, you have convinced me on Island of the Idols. It's not just Dan necessarily, because I also hate Missy and Elizabeth for their actions. But okay, I'm gonna put it in B- for right now. Might change it for a bit. Tommy does do good in any season. Tommy, also, I think it's so funny that in preparation of like applying to Survivor, Tommy applied for Big Brother, made it all the way to the finals, and then dropped out at the last second because he was prepared for like what they would ask him for Survivor, and then got on Survivor and won. Oh, heroes versus villains in Kaoh. Yeah, you'll see if you stay to the end. Alright. Next, after Island of the Idols, which we've moved up. Might even move it up to B. We'll see. Dan just tanks it so much. But... Oh my god, Kelly? Did I even mention Kelly? I did mention Kelly. Alright, next on my list. It's the only other one that I have in C tier, or C minus tier. And it's strictly because of the old school format. It's just a lot slower. People are still figuring out the game. And it's still developing, but it's not if you watch the first 2 seasons, you know what's going on. It's Survivor Africa. In Survivor Africa, you've got the trio of Ethan, Lex, and Big Tom, and they were just, they aligned, and they were just better than the rest of the players. They made an alliance, and they stuck to it, and it worked for them. In the beginning, Clarence, opening the beans for Diane because she's sick, but then he eats some of them, and then like Big Tom wanting to murder him for it. That was funny. T-Bird voting for Lex, and then Lex getting super angry at whoever voted for him, and him thinking it was Kelly Goldsmith, and then just like talking to T-Bird about all this, not knowing that T-Bird was the one that voted for him. That was also really funny. But especially compared to the first 2 seasons, there are not nearly as many notable people. There's Ethan, Lex, Big Tom, Kim Johnson, T-Bird, but that's really it. I guess Clarence, but there's not much to the rest of the people in this season. The top 4, the 4 most notable players made it to the top 4. But it kind of it just makes the beginning of the season you're just waiting to get to the end because that's going to happen. Lex played, a really good game. He played better than Ethan, but once it got down to 4, Kim Powers won both immunities and decided she wanted to take Ethan to the end. And since he was so likable, he won 5-2. So it's not a bad season at all. It's just, more slow-paced. And I'm glad I watched Survivor Africa. I'm probably not going to watch it again anytime soon. So that also wraps up my C- tier. It's a short tier. It used to have Island of the Idols. It used to have another season in it as well, but I moved that one up for later. Dwight Lee. Means a lot, man. Also, see ya, yeah, appreciate you. Alright. Next, at the bottom of C tier, I have... Oh boy, I wish these were in order. Okay, Edge of Extinction. This season is literally the Rick Devon show. The Edge, I hate as a twist in this season. I don't hate it in Winners at War. I hate it in this season. For example, the winner, Chris, played 12 days of the game. He was voted out 3rd on day, I think it was day 8, maybe it was day 9, comes back on day 36, misses almost a month of the show, comes back at the end, does play super well at the end, but still doesn't play 30 days. Chris played 12 days of the show. For those of you that have watched Big Brother 20, Steve, the first person out, also played 12 days. Just 2 guys that played 12 days of CBS reality TV. Steve and Chris, the winner of Survivor. That's nuts to me. In pre-merge, Chris gets voted out. Rick gets voted out. So the 2 more notable people of the season, both get voted out pre-merge, which is kind of whack. Wendy was funny, I guess. Too wacky for me. I don't know. I didn't love her. Of the 4 returnees, I didn't need Joe again. I didn't need Aubrey again. I love David, so I'm glad they brought him back. And I was okay with Kelly Wentworth. The newbie cast was strong, but it wasn't fully materialized because of all of the editing for Rick Devens. And I love Rick Devens, don't get me wrong, but the editing was just so Rick Devens show. To be fair, Rick won 4 immunities and found 4 idols. That's crazy. He's the only person that's ever had 4 idols in a season. But that's 8 different times he could have been immune. That's crazy. Then, we get down to the final 4. Chris wins final immunity, decides to make fire against Rick, takes Rick out. That's a badass move. Like, that's cool. But now the final 3 is Chris, Gavin, and Julie. Gavin went the entire season basically like always being safe, never had a vote casted against him once, played very good like socially and pretty good strategically, won a couple immunities in there. And the jury format just screws him over. He doesn't even know 2 or 3 of the people on the jury based off of the format because everybody on the edge, like Reem was voted on the 3rd day, not on Gavin's initial tribe. Gavin never met Reem. And then Chris has spent 30 days with all of these people on the edge, all hoping that they can get a shot to get back in and win. So they're already all in the mindset of like, they're going to want to vote for Chris because like if they were in Chris's spot, they would want the people on the edge to vote for him too. So Gavin gets really screwed over. I would have voted for Gavin if I was the jury. However, I say that not as a member of the jury, so I don't know if that's really it. It's just such a weird, like, just this season as a whole is like an asterisk on Survivor. I don't know. You do have some good characters, though. Like, you get War Dog, you get Lauren, Victoria, Gavin, Chris, Rick Devens. I think I already said Rick, but he deserves 2 mentions. And then, like, the returnees, like, David is pretty good, Wentworth is pretty good. I don't know. Just as a whole, the season was too strongly edited towards Rick, and the winner played for 12 days. So, take it as you will. I like it in Winners at War just because I love the winners. Simon, oh my god. When Chris says, I will be making fire against Rick Devens live, dude, I was jumping up and down in excitement. I think Edge works pre-merge. I like Edge pre-merge. I don't care for it post-merge necessarily. I like giving people that are voted out first a second chance to kind of like reassimilate, but that's just what it is. All right, God, I keep saying I need to go faster, and I'm going so slow. All right, we're gonna go quick on the next 2. God damn it! All right, next in C tier is Survivor Guatemala. A couple things about it. This is the introduction of immunity idols. There was good gameplay, but god damn it, I don't give a shit about this season. I just don't. Judd was funny. Rafe played well up until his blunder at the very end, where he told Danny it was okay if she didn't bring him, which is crazy because he wins at the end. But regardless, Stephanie was never going to win. Danny played well. It's a good game move by not getting voted out at Final 4 because really they should have kept Lydia over Danny, but it didn't really end up mattering. Also, Danny might not have won the final immunity. Maybe it was Stephanie. I don't remember. There's just not enough notable characters. It was cool that they brought back Bobby John and Stephanie from the prior season, but that's about it. Like, there's Danny, there's Rafe, there's Stephanie, and there's Judd. And, like, that's all I really remember from that season. Just not, not my season. Not my cup of tea. Next is right above Guatemala. I have Survivor Samoa. Right there. Yeah, Simon, you are not wrong. You are not wrong. Alright, Samoa has a very similar thing to Edge of Extinction. This is the Russell Hantz show. He absolutely destroyed the idea of hidden immunity idols by just going and looking for them without a clue. Before this, people had never even fathomed of looking and finding an idol without a clue, and then he found like 3 of them without clues. Um, what is pretty cool about this season is that the Fo'ofo'a tribe got down to 4 going into the merge. They were down 4-8, and then at the final 5, they were 4-1. Like they just took out every single person on the other side, even though they never had the numbers. Natalie, as a winner, is one of the worst. She I recently people are starting to give her more credit, but like you cannot tell me that Natalie deserves the win at all. I'm voting for Mick before I vote for Natalie. um, when it was 4-1 against the Fo'ofo'a and Brett wins 3 immunities in a row, was 1 immunity away from getting to the final 3 and probably winning, because the jury did not respect Russell. As for characters, Shambo is funny and loud. In the auction, I always just found it so funny. John Fincher, Parvati's husband, bought an apple pie and then had the choice to he could eat a slice for himself, or he could give 3 of his tribe mates a slice, but he doesn't get one. And he's like, "No, I'm gonna take the pie. They're not gonna vote me out for taking pie for myself, right?" And I think he gets voted out that episode, which is just Survivor editing. But a very, very impactful moment in the history of Survivor is just the final tribal speech that Eric gives to Natalie, basically swaying the jury to vote for Natalie over Russell, and telling Natalie that she's made it there, and she has every right to be there, and she's earned it. And that part is cool. But Mick is feckless. That's another part from Final Tribal Council. I don't know. It's just very Russell Hantz oriented. And at the time, if I was watching Survivor and this is the first time, I watched Samoa before I knew who Russell Hantz was, I thought I would probably like it more, because it'd be like, oh my god, this guy's literally a game changer. But I had already known about Russell Hantz. I like his Heroes versus Villains game a lot more because it's against All-Stars. So I didn't have as much enjoyment watching it in Samoa, but I can understand people having it a lot better. I don't love Samoa very much. Alright, what do I have next? Alright, this one used to be in my C- tier, and then I thought about it more, and I realized how much more I enjoy this season than I originally thought. And that would be... Where is this? Survivor South Pacific, and I think I'm going to place it right there. Yes. The thing about this season, it is just an alternate universe Redemption Island, but the returnees seem random. Rob versus Russell made sense because of the Heroes versus Villain reunion thing. They brought back Ozzy and Coach, who had never played together, so that just seemed weird to me. But I like it better because they're you're just placing 2 team captains. They might work together, they might not work together, we don't know. There's no history between the two, so I actually really enjoyed that. Ozzy being the king of Redemption Island is super cool. Having that be Ozzy's island. He when he was on Redemption Island after the merge, he would catch fish. When people would get voted out, he would feed them fish. He would treat them well, and then go and beat them in the challenge the next day. He would he would make sure that they were well fed to leave a good taste in their mouth when they left. Where it's damn, Ozzy treated me well. He caught me fish. He made me food. He beat me fair and square. I wouldn't want to vote for him at the end. And he would have won handily if he makes it to the end. He was 1 immunity challenge left. He makes it back from Redemption twice, which is pretty cool, especially after the first time, with his strategy being to get voted into Redemption to make sure that they had the numbers going into the merge. I thought that was kind of sick. That's super cool. So they go into the merge up 6-5, I think, or 5-4. I think it's 6-5, 5-4, or whatever. But Coach convinces Cochran to flip, resulting in Ozzy's tribe to get picked off one by one, and then as soon as that tribe is completely picked off, they just vote out Cochran. So it's kind of just not much interesting gameplay happens at that point, because it's just the Coach Sophie tandem. Albert just picking off people. Sophie convincing Albert not to make moves because it's not smart at that point. Some cool things about the season. Cochrane almost beating Ozzy in Redemption Island was cool. Sophie beating Ozzy, like as cool as it, like I hate that. Like I want Ozzy to win that final immunity because at this point, like Ozzy was like the survivor man that isn't Boston Rob. Like he was just cool, and I was like, man, I don't like Sophie, but like now I like Sophie, and I'm very glad that Sophie won. But yeah, like other than Sophie, Ozzy, Coach, and Cochrane, there's really not that many great people. There's Jim Rice. I like Jim Rice. But Rick, Albert, Edna, medium characters, not really too interesting. So I've got it placed in middle of C tier. So now, next season is the first all returning season. Not Survivor Game Changers. We have Survivor All Stars. And we have one. Okay, this is not the last one in C. All Stars, it's Boston Rob totally dominates the game, and the bitter jury gives it to Amber. Something that irked me this season is that Xian, especially like once it gets to the merge, thinks that Amber is playing this super smart game and is playing Boston Rob, and votes for Amber at the end to win because of this. And Amber's just not. Amber is literally just in love with Rob. And Rob is just like, they work as a great duo. But Xian just thinks she's so smart. Like, oh, Amber's got this figured out. Amber's the mastermind. I don't know. That always rubbed me the wrong way. You've got the infamous Rob and Lex deal when the tribe swaps in like the tribe swaps pre-merge. And it basically just ends up being the same tribes, except Amber's on the other tribe now. So Rob makes a deal with Lex, and Rob is like, hey man, protect her if you can, in his Rob voice. And then Lex does. Lex is like, I'm going to help my friend out. I'm going to keep Amber. They blindside Jerry, or they vote Jerry out. I don't remember if it was a blindside. And then they come back, and Rob's like, no, I got to vote you out. I'm sorry. Immediately votes out Lex and Kathy. Doesn't even give them a vote. And it's just like, come on, Rob. Like, have some sense of jury management. He probably could get Lex's vote. He keeps him around. Maybe he can't get Lex's vote, actually, because Lex was super butthurt about it. But he can probably, like, not be so, like, he is inviting them not to vote for him at the end by immediately just being like, nah, dude, I gotta vote you out. Like, that's just not good gameplay. What is good gameplay, though, is at the final five, when it's Rob, Amber, Jenna Lewis, Rupert, and Big Tom, it makes sense for them to vote out Rob or like the Rob and Amber duo. I don't remember. I think Amber might have had individual immunity at this point, but I could be wrong. But Rob orchestrates a fight between Rupert and Big Tom, and then they vote. Like, they just end up voting out Big Tom, which is so dumb. But I don't know. The beginning was also slow. They was very anti-winner. So they voted out all the winners. Rob's sister Nino goes home early, which sucks. I love Rob's sister Nino. There's a whole thing where like Rich rubs up on Sue naked and makes her feel super violated, and Sue quits. That happens today. Rich is like going to jail. Like, that is not happening in today's environment. Amber being an all-star is already a questionable decision going into the season. But all in all, I will still always love like all returnee. Actually, that's a lie. I hate Big Brother 22. Big Brother 22 has made me change my mind about loving all returnee seasons just because they're all stars. But I don't hate this season as much as a lot of people do, but I still do have it at, what, like 29th or something like that. Because there still are some good characters, and I do love watching like young Boston Rob absolutely dominate everything. Amber. Have we ranked Gabon yet? No, Gabon's up. Gabon's pretty high. Gabon's probably higher than it should be. Next up, the last season I've got in C tier is Survivor Caramoan, if I can find it. So, Survivor Caramoan has the worst pre-merge of all time. It is the worst. There's just nothing, like, there's nothing redeeming about it. Shamar gets an eye boo-boo and, you know, has to get medevaced out. The favorites lose the first one, vote out Francesca for the first time for the second time, or vote out Francesca first for the second time, which is pretty funny. The fans lose a few in a row because of that. Just 2 side girls get voted out. Nothing fun happens in the beginning. But, you know, once it hits merge, Cochrane absolutely dominates the game. Actually, even before the merge, there was a tribe swap, and it put literally, like, all the physical all-stars on one tribe, and they just kick ass, like, over and over again. And Cochrane's not on that tribe. And it doesn't even matter, because as soon as it's the merge, Cochrane completely dominates the game, wins 4 immunities, which is kind of nuts. There are some really fun moments. You got the Malcolm tribal with the 3 amigos, where Eddie's got immunity, Reynolds has immunity, Malcolm has an idol, gives it to Eddie, and then Malcolm has his own idol, which they both play. At a prior tribal, Reynolds has an idol and he's gonna play it, and then Malcolm's like, no, Reynolds, hold on, they're voting for me, you gotta give it to me. And then Reynolds does give it to Malcolm, and they didn't even vote for Malcolm. And Malcolm voted for Reynolds that tribal, so that was just, like, crazy to me. But, like, once they start taking out Malcolm, Reynolds, Andrea, Brenda, it's pretty obvious that Cochrane is just, like, so easily got this in the bag. Eric gets medevaced at Final 5, which sucks because I love Eric. I thought that was so cool that they had Eric on the first Fans versus Favorites, and they have him come back as a second fan. I love Eric. I can't say he's one of my favorite Survivor players ever, but I'd be happy with Eric coming back at any point. I don't know. Eddie was really not the smartest, and he could have won if he wins the final 4 of Unity and Cochrane gets voted out, but they weren't going to vote out Cochrane. The final 3 of Cochrane, Dawn, and Sherry. I hate Sherry. Dawn really annoys me, and I like Cochrane. So, I don't know. That's really that season for me. It's just Cochrane. I'm glad Cochrane won. I think it's cool that we have a Cochrane winner. Jeff Probst never lets me forget that Cochrane won. Every season brings him up, but that's what it is. I like Gabon so much. Like, I loved Ken, and then found out that Ken played Melee, and that was just like, damn, that's so cool. Yeah, this is gonna be, it's gonna be a long time editing this YouTube video, but I'm definitely excited to post this. All right. So now, moving on to the B- tier, we've got another all-returning season in Survivor Game Changers. I have a lot of seasons in B-, so Island of the Idols is going to find its way somewhere in this tier. But anyways, back to Game Changers. It's a dumb theme, and it's a dumb cast. Some of the people on Game Changers. Hallie, Sierra Dawn Thomas. Caleb, sort of. Caleb was a fan favorite after the beginning of Kaoh Rong. But also, who the fuck is Hallie or Sierra Dawn Thomas? They were both nobodies from World Apart, and they were brought back. That blows my mind. But at least going into it, it was like, okay, at least they've got some cool names. They've got JT, they've got Sandra, Malcolm, Tony. Like, you got some heavy hitters there. You got Ozzy, who, I didn't need to see again necessarily, but that's fine. And they're all going home, like, right in the beginning. Even, like, Sierra Easton, she votes out her mom. She's at least likable. She plays hard. She gets voted out first. I don't know. That was tough. JT ruins his reputation. Malcolm goes home because JT spills the beans in the weird 2 tribes in 1 tribal. Caleb just goes home. I don't even remember what happens to him. Sandra actually played very well in the pre-merge. She eats the sugar, blames it on JT. Michaela gets pissed, votes JT out because of it. That's good for Sandra. But, her reputation preceded her. She's the only 2-time winner. She is not going to be able to win. Same thing happens in Winners of War, basically. But, oh my god, Jeff Varner outing Zeke as a strategy because he's being deceptive about how he identifies himself is absolutely disgusting. I'm so glad that like they didn't even have a vote. And Jeff was just like, no, Varner, you get to step in. Then we get to the merge. Brad Culpepper definitely runs the game physically and has the numbers. But Sarah plays really well too. Sarah has very like one of the best strategic games I've seen. Very like also like visibly to us. Like we can see her like, okay, this person has this advantage. I want that. This is what I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna do it, and then she does it. And it's cool. Troyzan's just there. That's all it is. There's too many advantages this season, and it really sucks that at Final Six, Sari gets taken out due to the advantage get-in, where Culpepper's got immunity, Troyzan has his idol, Ty has an idol for himself and has an idol for Aubrey, and Sarah has the legacy advantage, making all 5 of them safe, and then Sari by default just has to go home. And it also sucks because Sari didn't have any votes casted her way and set up a sick 3-2-1 vote where Sarah would have gone home. But then again, you have to give Sarah credit for, well, not like too much credit, because I don't know if Sarah knew what the legacy advantage... No, Sarah didn't know what the legacy advantage did. Oh, no, she did. My bad. But, for Sarah to recognize, like, you know, Sierra Dawn Thomas tells her that she has a legacy advantage, so then Sarah blindsides her, and then gets Sierra to give Sarah the advantage, which keeps her safe at the Final Six, where, you know, she would have been taken out without it. You know, Sarah also finds the advantage Michaela was sitting on during a reward challenge, so that was good of Sarah to have like a keen eye for that. I do think that Sarah deserved the win handily over Brad Culpepper, because Brad was kind of an asshole, even though he did win 5 immunities and had the numbers and pretty much ran the game in the front, where Sarah did her, like, you know, behind the scenes manipulating. But I would say at the end, like, I think Sarah and Brad, and not really Troyzan, but I think those are 2 strong people at the end, so that definitely made it pretty well for me. Having Ty and Aubrey make it to the end was cool, but they were just very invisible this season. Maybe not Ty as much, but Aubrey was always felt very just not there. I don't know. Half an amazing cast, and then half a not amazing cast, which would be fine if this was like fans versus favorites, but no, it's just all stars. Alright, next in B-. Simon, you predicted this one a while ago. We have Fiji, which I am still putting below Island of the Idols. Fiji has some great players. Fiji also has 14 people that I don't remember at all. There was the cool blindside against Edgardo, where I think it was the 4 Horsemen Alliance had an idol, and the other people were trying to figure out who to vote for, knowing that they had the idol, so they were, you know, basing it between like the top 2 people, and then we're just like, wait, what if we just voted out their 3rd best guy? They would never use the idol on him, and they did, and Edgardo went home. Earl, great player. I think it's so cool that he had no idea what Survivor was, and 2 days before they left to film, they found Earl and were just like, hey, we need another person to go on Survivor. How does that sound for you? And Earl's like, I have no idea what that is. And then goes and then plays the #1 most dominating one-time player performance game. Maybe not dominating, but like the best game in my opinion. Just narrowly beating out Tommy. And he didn't even know what Survivor was. Like, that's crazy to me. Yaman also very cool. Love the deal he makes with Dreams at the Final Six, where he tells Dreams that he gives Dreams the car that Yaman wins at the Final Six reward challenge. And the deal is that Yaman gives Dreams the car because Dreams doesn't have one. If at Final 4 Dreams wins immunity, Dreams gives that immunity to Yao, and it's just like, oh, like I can see in Dream's spot being like, yeah, I'll take the car for sure. And then, you know, that situation happens where they're at Final 4, Dreams wins immunity, and then doesn't give it to Yao Man, and Yao Man's voted out. In the preseason, though, there's the weird twist where it's like basically haves versus have-nots. The haves obviously win like all of the challenges because of this, because, you know, they are, you know, have food and are sleeping better and all of that stuff. I don't know, it's just weird. I wonder if like the producers were thinking that the have-nots were going to do super good. I don't know. That was just a weird twist. Earl handily beats Dreams and Cassandra in a unanimous vote at the end. Plays almost the first perfect game. Gets one throwaway vote on him at the final 5 or 6 or something like that. But really, like other than Earl, Yao Man, Dreams, there's just not that many characters. And because of that, it lands in low B minus territory. Yeah, what's up, Shadows? Shadows Sniper EST. How's it going? We're just doing a bit of a ranking tier list today. All right. The next 2 seasons, I was gonna say are similar. They're not very similar. And I think these, like Island of the Idols and then these 2 seasons, I'm fine with being anywhere in this middle B minus range. And to me, the first one is going to be Ghost Island. And Ghost Island post merge is literally, it's just a Wendell Dominic dynamic. They have so much power that like nobody can even look in their direction and like think about trying to overtake them, because they just have immunity, idols, numbers, another idol, an advantage, immunity challenge. Like there's just no touching them at all. Also, Michael Yerger is 18. How the fuck, like, what water is this guy drinking? Because this guy is an Adonis. Preseason, though, there's the fun early burnout of Jacob, plays super crazy, gets voted out second. That was funny. The Chris versus Dominic dynamic was awesome. It just was a bit sad to see Dominic win it so early on, after, like, the 6th vote? It was the first merge vote. Because Chris was so funny. But once Chris leaves, there's basically nothing stopping Wendell and Dominic from just absolutely obliterating everything. The cast is very top heavy for the most part. Kellen was prominent until she wasn't. She was just voted out. That kind of just happened. Sebastian was kind of just there. There was the Donovan and Laurel duo, which was just like a little siblings to Dominic and Wendell. And it was interesting, but they had so many opportunities. Like, they were what could have made any potential Wendell-Dominic overthrow happen, and they never made the move. So they effectively lost the game for themselves and everyone else in the cast. Then you get down to the final 3. Dominic, Wendell, and Laurel. I think it is so cool that Dominic has the first 5 people vote for him, and like the first 5 people in the jury vote for him, and then Wendell has the last 5 people in the jury vote for him. I do think that Wendell gets lucky in the way that the tie vote is handled, where the last remaining member of the final 3 becomes the 11th member of the jury, because it's shown throughout the season the relationship that Wendell and Laurel have. So Laurel obviously gives Wendell the vote to win. I personally think, I can't say like who deserved it. I think they both deserved it. I think Dominic played a better game, but I am not at all dissatisfied with the Wendell win. I think he deserved it very much as well. It's a very middle of the road season for me. And you'll also notice, actually, never mind. But yeah, it's just a very middle of the road season for me. So yeah, Lance right there. And my next season, I used to hate this season. I used to have this season probably in my C- tier. But then I rewatched it somewhat recently, actually. And I thought about it more. And the end of the season, I just found so exhilarating from just a watching standpoint. I stopped thinking about it as like the game and being like, oh man, that's not the best gameplay ever. This isn't great. Like, I just started seeing it as a show, and I enjoyed it a whole lot more. And that season is the wonderfully named Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. And man, do I hate that name. What a goofy title. Who comes up with that? And they're like, oh my god, I have the next theme. Money, Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. And then everyone's like, yes, you've done it. But anyways, the final 7 onwards of this season is actually kind of awesome, with like the dynamics of people then having to go idol hunting all the time and finding idol after idol after idol. That's super yeah, that's not the best strategy, that's not the best gameplay, but that's cool that he's able to do that. one thing to note is that also this is the first season that the forced fire making twist at 4 comes into play. Um, and that really screws over Chrissy, Devin, and Ryan. I think a Chrissy, Devin, Ryan final 3 is probably one of the most interesting final 3s we would ever even have a chance of getting. I think it could literally go any way. I think any 3 of them could have won it. But, Ben finds 3 idols and then was able to just make fire over Devin and win. After Devin doesn't even practice knowing that it's going to be a fire making because Ben has no idea. Devin starts to practice, but he breaks the flint and he's like, oh, it's a sign. I just got to wait. And that's so dumb, dude. Just practice. I don't know. I don't love Ben as a winner, but I do love Ben's determination to keep finding idol after idol after idol. That was cool. Dr. Mike throwing half of Lauren's idol into the fire at the final 7. That's badass. That was a cool moment. At the final 5, Devin realizing that Ben might have an idol, so he throws a vote on Mike knowing that Ben might vote for Devin, is a really smart game move because then when Ben does pull out an idol, it's a 1-1 tie versus Devin and Mike, and then the alliance votes out Mike. So that was a great move on Devin's part. I'd love to see Devin back at some point, but I don't know. Again, this is a very middle-of-the-road season for me. I'm actually going to move it below Ghost Island, and I'm going to put Island of the Idols in front of both of them. And that's where I'm going to leave this tandem of 3. Alright. So the next tandem of 2 are also very similar. And again, some people might be angry with this, some people might not. It's just, I don't have the nostalgia for these seasons necessarily. I respect them for what they are. I appreciate the difference in gameplay in these seasons. But I'm still only going to have the middle of the road bottom. And the first one is going to be Australian Outback. It's the second season. The gameplay is nowhere near developed enough. At least they knew to make alliances, but that's really all. There's still so much that hasn't been developed and so much that people don't know that seems so obvious to us today. They just didn't know at that point. The players that were playing wanted a winner that wasn't a villain. They didn't want a Richard Hatch. They wanted someone that was like a hero. And because of that, Colby takes Tina to the end because Tina is more deserving than Keith. I remember hearing something about this where Colby against Keith is almost 95%. Colby is also America's sweetheart at this point in time. Everyone loves him. But if Colby takes Keith to the end, Colby wins almost 95 to 100% of the time. Colby takes Tina, it's 50-50, if not 40-60 in Tina's favor. So that's a really dumb move for Colby to take him to the end. The Jerry Colby dynamic was cool, especially at this point. We didn't really have something like that in Borneo. I'm also actually going to switch this. My next season is going to be Borneo, just so you guys know. I'll introduce that again, but I'm going to put Borneo right below it when we get to that point. But this is also one of the first times that people started to really understand how real Survivor was when Scoopin fell into the fire and had the skin falling and melting off of his hands. It made it seem real, where people were like, oh my god, this is actually real, they're actually surviving out there. That was a cool moment. Sucks for him especially, but as a viewer, that's eye-opening. Also, one more thing about there's 2 fun facts about this season. 8 people from this season have returned, which is crazy to me. Tina has returned 3 times, or Tina's played 3 times, Colby's played 3 times, Jerry's played 3 times, Amber's played 3 times, Alicia's played twice, Varner's played 3 times, Kimmy's played twice, and Scoopin's played twice. That's 8 people, and 5 of them have played 3 times. That's crazy to me. It's the only season that was 42 days. I think they're just trying to make it more harder than Borneo, but then they realized that 42 is too much, so they went back to 39. And at the time, it was averaging 30 million viewers an episode. Those are just some fun facts, nothing to do with the season. But the season is pretty middle of the road bottom for me. And then what originally I had, my next season was going to be Borneo. I've decided to move Borneo behind Australian Outback. And that's just because I at least enjoy the slightly more developed gameplay in Australian Outback and some of the characters than I do in Borneo. But to be fair, Borneo was the first season ever. People didn't believe in alliances at this point, and which is funny because the people that did just wiped the floor. The alliance of Rich, Kelly Wigglesworth, Sue Hawk, and Rudy made an alliance and absolutely swept the floor. It helps them that all of their names are basically at the bottom of the alphabet, and they had Sean, another tribe member, decide that his strategy of voting people out was just to go alphabetically. If you happen to win immunity, great, your name is skipped. But he just voted strategically in an alphabetical order. So it was like this alliance of 4 had a 5th alliance member without him knowing in it, because they would just vote for whoever the next person was in the alphabet. So that is pretty cool. There's the obvious, like, iconic, the snake eats the rat speech. Like, that is, I think I messed up what that was, but like, that is Survivor's, like, that is Survivor. Rich winning a 4-3 vote at the end after Kelly split from the alliance at like the final 6, then went on like a 4 immunity run to close the season out. Eventually had to knew that she wouldn't beat Rudy at the final 2, so had to bring Rich out, or edges her out 4-3. Also, the first line of the season is just Rich saying that, you know, the $1 million check already had his name on it. It's also just such a line. But it did have some good players, or some notable players. I mean, obviously we had Rich, Kelly, Wigglesworth, Sue, and Rudy, but then we also got people like Jervis, Greg, Sean, Jenna Lewis, Colleen, even. Just like, you know, these are pretty prominent figures, not necessarily because of their gameplay, but just because they were on the first season. And that's really cool. So that's basically, you know, my feelings of like the super old school seasons. But that is my feelings about Australian Outback and Borneo. Simon, I did not look at this. Did they ever explain the origin of what name? Sorry for being late. I was in the process of... It's all good, reaping. And yeah, like... Oh, yeah, another thing. The Survivor Borneo finale had 50 million people watch. And in the 2000s, that is the second most watched, like, television thing of the 2000s, only behind the Friends finale, which is mind-blowing. 50 million people tuned in for the Borneo finale. Did they ever explain the origin of the name? They might have, but I don't know if they've explained the origin of healers versus hustlers. It's such a dumb one. But yeah, no one has any idea who Tommy Sheehan is. Nobody even knows who, like so many. I'm not saying nobody knows who Tony is, but like literally, just like everybody knew who Colby was. My mom knows who Colby is, and she doesn't watch Survivor. Like, they were such prominent figures. And that is crazy. Alright. One more season in the B- tier, and that is Survivor Vanuatu. This season, especially the end, very female dominated. The final 7 was 6 females and Chris. Chris, who ends up being the winner, expertly maneuvers his way to the end. And he almost gets voted out first due to poor performance in the first challenge, which is a little bit similar, not necessarily due to the first challenge, but, you know, it's a little bit of a trend. Winner almost getting voted out first. But once we're at the final 7, Chris knows that the girls were going to start, like, fighting each other, and he played on it, and it was cool to watch. At final 7, we've got Amy telling Chris, hey, we're not going to vote you out, even though, like, you're the last guy, and they just voted a bunch of guys out. And it was a female alliance. She was like, hey, I'm not going to vote you out. I'm going to vote out Eliza. Chris then uses this information, gets Eliza, Twyla, and Scout to flip the vote and take out the other three girls, Amy, Julie Berry, and someone else that I don't remember. But Chris is able to, he's at the bottom. He then makes a majority alliance of 4, votes out the other 3 people, and then he wins the last 2 immunities and brings Twyla to the end with him, and is able to convince the jury that he expertly maneuvered his way to the end when he shouldn't have. So I think it's a good win. I think the final 7 on is pretty cool. I could not tell you what happens before the final 7. I just don't remember. I've only seen this season once, and I just remember Chris almost gets voted out first but doesn't, and then the guys get picked off at like the merge, and then Chris is at 6-1 versus the girls and then gets there and wins. So that is my B- tier. So we have one that I think Simon's not going to like this ranking too much, but I've never been the biggest fan of this season, and that is Survivor San Juan del Sur. It was an interesting take on Blood versus Water. 2 seasons before this, we had the first Blood versus Water season, and it was all returnees. And then this time they were just doing it with non-returnees. And I think that's pretty cool. At the point, I was a bit sad because I did like returnees, but I did like having all new players. I liked having no Redemption Island. The pre-merge was pretty good. But it was definitely a little bit shaky, like with John Rocker getting voted out, and then his wife Julie quitting right afterwards. That part I didn't really like. I do like Drew getting voted out. I like them losing their Flint and then trying to negotiate with Jeff, and then Jeff being like, nah, and then Jeff like, what did I don't remember, but then they end up finding their Flint after they trade. It was just funny. And then there was also like they ate one tribe eats too much rice in the beginning, and then they run out of rice, and then Jeff goes and takes all of their stuff and gives, because it's like, because you were eating all that rice, you were performing better than the other tribe, so I'm taking away everything that you guys have. You get a pot and some beans, and that's it. So the pre-merge is pretty okay. Then we get to the merge, and it's like we've got this cool like Josh versus Jeremy war that's about to happen. And then they just both get taken out, like one after the other. So that definitely like dampened it a bit, because like I was ready to see like this battle, and then both heads of each side get taken out pretty early. But it is cool that Natalie at this point was like, I'm going to get my revenge on John and Jacqueline, but not yet. I got to wait for the right time. And from this point forward, Natalie Anderson plays masterfully. Stays safe when she needs to, maneuvers her way through, accidentally votes out Alec, and then convinces John and Jacqueline that she just like misheard the rules or like what they were supposed to do as a tribe. That I can't believe she gets away with it. That's crazy. But that's great gameplay. Then at the final 5, she, Jacqueline, did you vote for who I told you to? That's awesome. That's iconic. Votes out Baylor. So cool. I hate Missy and Baylor. Keith, immunity beast. That's crazy to me that if Keith makes it to the end over Natalie, Keith wins. I mean, I guess that's not crazy to me. I thought Keith was gonna win if he made it to the end. Not against Natalie, but Keith is fun. Natalie's a fantastic winner. We get Jeremy from this season. John's a good player. Jacqueline's okay. Alec is funny. Again, I hate Baylor and Missy. Wes is funny. I like Wes. All in all, this is a good season. I do have it in my top half of the ranking. But it's just not my favorite. Natalie played a top 5 game in your opinion? I mean, that is definitely a conversation. I don't think I would have her in my top 5. But I mean, I have her up there for sure. Alright. Next season, I'm making another adjustment in my rankings. I'm putting this season below San Juan Del Sur because I no longer think that this season is better than San Juan Del Sur. And that is Survivor Panama, Exile Island. This season is just a very non-harmful season. It is just a season of Survivor, and I just happen to like a lot of the people at the end. RS is kind of a weirdo, but I also like RS. Shane is one of the funniest people that has ever played Survivor, and I cannot believe he did not get brought back for second chances because he is so funny. Terry is an immunity beast, awesome. Danielle DiLorenzo, she can be a little bit fiery. She was on the villains tribe. I like her. And then you've got Suri. This is Suri's first season. And that the fact that that is the final 5, that's pretty cool. Out of the last 7 individual immunity challenges, Terry won 5 of them, and he had a hidden immunity idol, which at the time I think was a god idol, which he could use after the votes were read. So like he was set. He won. He pulled the mic, except he didn't win at the very end. Aris was just in a good spot to win. He didn't get voted out as he was somebody who could potentially beat Terry in an immunity challenge, which he did once. And then just at the very end, it was, Aris, Danielle, and Terry, and Terry didn't win. So Danielle has to take Aris to the end, and then Aris beats Danielle. Also, I think it's kind of crazy to me is that Aris would have taken Suri to the end, which is kind of mind-blowing. And also, Aris probably would have beaten Suri, which is also mind-blowing, because Suri is just like this awesome player who, Suri ever makes it to the end, and I'm on the jury, I'm always voting for Suri. Like, she's so awesome. All in all, it's not a bad season. I like the top 5 players a lot, so it ranks higher for me than other seasons. But I totally understand if people have this season like here or here because it's boring. This is like the Big Brother 12 of Survivor seasons to me. It's boring, but I just like it, And that is true. She did play such a dominating game against actual good players. I would really have to think about it for top 5. Maybe after this, I'll think about that. I mean, I'm definitely going to be doing more ranking videos with like the Survivor winners, like Survivor players and that sort of thing. So at some point, that definitely will be something that I'm discussing. But anyways, now we're at a good season. We are at Survivor Gabon, and Gabon is just a funny season. I like Ken. I like Melee. I like Ken even more now that I know that Ken is god at Melee. He's entertaining. It's really cool to just see like a gamer go out there and someone like Ken, who is like this skinny small guy, and do so well. Like Ken wins if he gets to the end, handily over everybody, I think. Yeah. Maddie also does very well. Also wins if he gets to the end, but doesn't get to the end because Bob gets to the end and has no clue what he's doing. But he wins 4 immunities, so he can never go home when like people are trying to get him out. And he's so likable. Also, he makes a cool fake idol. Looks really good. Randy, I think he gives it to Randy. Randy uses it, and it's fake, and Randy's face is so funny. But Randy, again, a hilarious villain. It's been said that if Randy had made it to the loved ones visit, he would not have had anybody there because he did not have anyone to bring. And that's just okay with Randy. Randy's like, yeah, I didn't want to bring anybody for the loved ones visit because I hate everybody. And that's so awesome to me. A couple things that aren't great about this season. One, Bob has no idea what goes on the entire season. He almost loses to Susie at the end, but Bob is just really likable. I don't know. Like this season is like. What's funny is that like I find like this season in like Nicaragua to be pretty similar in the fact where it's like the winner has no idea what's going on, but they win out, and it's like it's not great gameplay throughout the season, but for whatever reason, Gabon just hits the spot for me, and Nicaragua does not. I don't know, and it's because I love Fabio too, but I don't know. I think there are more characters from Gabon. Like we've got Ken, Randy, Bob, Sugar, even Maddie. We got Corinne, Crystal Cox, the Olympian. Um, oh my God, Crystal's like confessional. When she was voting for Randy, and it's like, oh, you have made my life hell on this island. That's funny. Corinne's speech about Sugar's dead father at Final Tribal Council was brutal. I cannot believe she was not put on the villains tribe after that, because that is just, ooh, that was tangy. I don't know. I think it's just a fun season to watch, especially when I don't really look at it as like a super, gameplay oriented season. Like, I'm just having a good time. Bob is someone I can root for. Next up is a season that I have not watched in quite some time, but there is just a very specific reason as to why it is this high on my list. And that specific reason is named Rob Cesternino. And this season is Survivor the Amazon. Rob Cesternino just makes this season for me. He brings something that had never been seen before. You're in an alliance, you have the numbers, you flip on them, you join the other side. So that your first tribe no longer has the numbers and you vote someone out. Then you go back to them and they have no choice but to work with you because they don't have the numbers. So they have to work with you, and you keep flipping back and forth and back and forth. You can never get voted out. In theory, obviously you can. But no one, this is such advanced gameplay, especially for this time. This is the 6th season. We have just gotten into the point where people have actively had alliances and started strategizing and lying to people. He was so far ahead of his time and really sped up the growth of what Survivor is and how gameplay works. As for other people, you've got the Jenna and Heidi duo. Heidi is very funny. Very much enjoyed watching Heidi. At the final 6, I want to say, Jenna wins immunity and gives it up to Heidi, knowing that Heidi was the target, and then neither are voted out. This is the only time in history that someone has given up their immunity, their individual immunity, and not been voted out. So that's pretty cool. It was also the first time, I believe. But, we got Rob Cesternino. He makes it to the end, makes it to Final 3, but Jenna goes on an immunity run at Final 4, wins immunity. Rob and Matt and Jenna vote out Butch. Then at Final 3, Jenna wins immunity once again, takes Matt to the Final 2, knowing that Rob would probably win due to his strategic gameplay. Which is tough, but that's just the way it goes. Another thing that's funny, with Rob, is that there's this guy Alex in his alliance, and then Alex told him that he planned to take Rob out at 4. So Rob obviously just flipped to the other side of the numbers and voted out Alex. He just used his strategy and was just well, you told me you were going to vote me out at 4. Why would I not vote you out? So that was funny. As I said before, this season is so high up because of the impact that Rob Cesternino has had on the game of Survivor, and just the Survivor community as a whole. He made the Survivor podcasting, talking about stuff. I would not be making this tier list without Rob Cesternino doing Rob as a podcast and having that grow the way that it has grown. I'm biased. What can I say? This season lands in high beauty for me. Kaoh Rong is still here. We still got a little bit before Kaoh Rong. Not too long though. So next, this is this season is what I call my definition of a top-heavy season. Where we have 6 very notable Survivor players, and then the other 14 are just absolute nobodies for the most part. Not actually. And this season is Survivor Cook Islands. The division by race, they divided tribes based on, or was that this season? I think it was. They divided tribes by race. Yeah. And that was pretty controversial at the time. Imagine they do that today. That's super. There's going to be talked about a lot. But yeah, beginning of the season, you've got the I2 tribe going into, we get to the final 12. We've got the I2 tribe and I think it's the whatever. That tribe both have 6. They have the decision that a mutiny can happen. You can leave your tribe and go to the other tribe if you so please. Well, 2 people on the I2 tribe, Candace and Tanner. I might be messing this up. They might not have been on the same tribe, but I think they were. But Candace and Penner both decide to mutiny over to the Roro tribe. So what was once a 6-6 tribe numbers now is turned into 4-8. But over the next 3 tribal immunity challenges, the team of 4 with Yule, Ozzy, Becky, and Sandra won all of them due to Ozzy's athleticism and Yule's puzzle-solving abilities. So that way, going into the merge, they were only down 4-5. And then because Yule's got the God Idol, Yule is able to convince Penner to flip back to them, giving them 5-4 numbers, where they're then able to take out the Roro tribe. Then, also during that, they vote out Penner, making the final 4 the original I2-4 of Yule, Ozzy, Becky, and Sandra. And then it is revealed that this is the first final 3 ever, and that Yule is now guaranteed to get to the final 3 because his idol is able to be played until the final 4. Yule is such a good player. I love Yule, but him having the idol will always make me wonder, like, how good is he without that idol? Like, is he able to play the exact same way with the exact same confidence, knowing that he now doesn't have this idol? I don't know. It's something to think about. But in terms of players, like, you've got Yule, Ozzy, Parvati. Even though she didn't play like a super legendary game, she still made it to 6th place, which is pretty good. Candace, Penner, and then you got people like Adam, Nate, Becky, Sandra. Other than that, I literally could not name a single person. It is just super top heavy, but it's got so many big hitter names, people that come back 3 times, 4 times, and also like the ending of 5-4 vote, Yule versus Ozzy, brains versus brawn, like strategy versus physical ability. It was cool to see a showdown like that at the end, and then ultimately see Yule take the crown on that one. Alright, this next one is also not the last one in the B tier. This one, we want to talk about dominance. This is the season to talk about, and that is Survivor Palau. Immediately you start off, you got 20 people, you schoolyard pick, tribes of 9, 2 people don't get picked, they're sent off immediately before the game even starts. John, Wanda, out. That's brutal. And then at this point, one tribe loses every single challenge until it's down to just 2 in Stephanie LaGrossa and Bobby John, and they lose again. And so they have to make a fire making to decide who's going to be the last remaining person on the tribe, and Stephanie manages to win. But then she has to spend the night alone, and that also, like, when I think of Survivor Palau, that's the first thing that I think of, is that scene where, like, Stephanie is, like, staying awake by the fire because she's scared that if she falls asleep and the fire goes out, that she won't be able to start it up again. And it's just a really powerful moment. But after that, she's just absorbed into the other tribe. There's no merge. The only time ever that there's not been a merge, because it's just one person that just gets absorbed. And at this point, it's very obvious that either Tom or Ian is going to be the winner. Both played incredibly dominant. Tom wins 5 individual immunities, including the last one, which takes nearly 12 hours. And he only wins after he manipulates Ian into giving up the individual immunity and basically quitting, saying that he'll give up if he brings the other girl, Katie, with him. And it's just, it's, again, a very top-heavy cast. No one was ever going to win other than Tom or Ian or Stephanie, but Stephanie was not going to make it to the end. However, if those two were in the final two, that would have been a sick battle. Either one of them could have won. I'm inclined to think that Tom still wins, but I would not be surprised if Ian wins. At final 5, Ian tries to flip on Tom, but I don't remember if he changes. I think he changes his mind. It's been so long since I've seen this, but like either changes his mind or it doesn't work. Tom then uses that to emotionally manipulate Ian by constantly expressing his disappointment and making him feel bad about it. Then at final 4, Tom makes Ian make fire against Jen, which Ian obviously wins. But I mean, like other than Tom, Ian, Stephanie LaGrossa, and Bobby John, there's really not that many people notable. There's Katie, Jen, Kobe, Janu even, but not like the most noteworthy cast. But it's an experience. We're never going to get a season like that where one tribe just absolutely demolishes the other one. No, I forgot about Billy Garcia in Cook Islands. I even had that written down. Whoopsies. That is Billy Garcia pronouncing his love to Candace on the second episode of Cook Islands is the funniest, craziest moment ever. Like, that's so funny. That's such a great moment. Definitely top 5 moments of all time. The first time I watched it, I'm like, this cannot be real. That's a joke, because that's hilarious. Rockstar Billy. Alright, we're on to my last season that I have in the B tier. This tier, when I first watched this season, I did not like it. I actually actively disliked it. But I really thought about it more as time went on. And I'm like, you know what, this season isn't so bad. I actually quite like this season. This season has a lot of noteworthy players. This season, has some ups and downs in it. This season being Survivor Kaoh Rong. Kaoh Rong. It's got some great characters. It's got some great villains. It's got some great gameplay. Scott and Jason, excellent villains. Definitely played very guerrilla warfare-ish games. A lot of fun to watch. They were evil, but they were still tactical. They I don't know. It was interesting to watch, especially a duo like that. And they weren't picked off early on. They both made it quite far. In the beginning, Caleb on the Beauty Tribe from Big Brother 16 was kind of kicking ass. He was doing very good. But then he was medevaced in the challenge that nearly took out 3 people and also almost killed Caleb, according to production. That challenge was just absurd. Caleb wins it for the tribe, immediately collapses, almost dies. Wild. Debbie is wacky as heck. Nick goes 22 or 23 days being immune. Wins every, immunity in the beginning of the season, then wins the first immunity. And then is instantly voted out when he doesn't win immunity. Michelle plays very, I don't want to say it under the radar necessarily. Very survival based. She knew what she needed to do to keep staying alive in the game and keep moving forward. And it paid off that the jury really respected that. I would have voted for Aubrey. Also, Michelle gets extremely lucky at the end with the Joe medevac. Because that's just another number that's not on Michelle's side. And she, got a free trip to the Final Four at that point. Where she would have had to win so many, she would have had to win an extra immunity challenge to make it to the end at that point. But the Joe medevac takes Joe out there. That's a number for Aubrey. That's someone that Aubrey was going to take to the end and beat. Aubrey played so well. Aubrey got very unlucky with Neil getting medevaced, taking the idol with him. Joe getting medevaced. She just is not in a great spot. Ty blindsiding Scott, incredible. Scott takes the idol with him. What a cool moment. Ty finds 3 idols this season. Ty is a little idol finder. He played a very strong game in the pre-merge. Then people did not respect his gameplay in the post-merge, and because of that, he got his no votes at the end. However, I do find this final three extremely strong with Aubrey, who I would have voted for, Ty, who had a really strong pre-merge, and then Michelle was just like, I don't think Michelle is this great player, but I do think that Michelle's survival-based nature made her a good fit with this final three for me to call it a very strong final three. Like, she's no slouch. Also, in the pre-merge, I don't remember the specifics of the vote, but I know it was 5 people on the tribe, and it was between Peter and Julia with who is going to go home. And the last vote is red, and it shows Julia's name crossed out, Peter's name written under it. It's like they changed their mind while voting. Peter's voting out in a 3-2 vote. It was just a cool vote. Scott is such a horrible person. Jason's a great character. Jason wasn't like Jason. At least had like this, like, you know, he's got his daughter. He's a bounty hunter doing it for his family, and then Scott was just like an asshole. I hated their treatment of. I've already forgotten her name. Alicia, is that what it is? I think it was Alicia, but they treated her horribly. Like, even in the show, they didn't even try to edit it when they went to tribal. Like, it was gonna go anyway. Like, they were just like, we have nothing to base. Like, it's gonna be her getting voted off. But yeah, some of like that does make it like a little. So I don't have this season ranked too high, but I do have it at B, and that is my last season to B. Now we're getting into the A plus, and S ranking, and I think a very good way to start off the bottom of the A, like this right here, is definitely like a divide for me. Like, a lot of these seasons, like, yeah, I could put Edge of Extinction in C-. I could put Caramoan in B-. Like, a lot of this is fluid at this point. This is a very definitive line for me, and I think it's a good way to start with it, with winners at war at the very bottom of A tier. What carries this season? It's all winners. That is the coolest thing. That is the stuff that people like me talk about and, like, you know, make scenarios about. I'll do some Brant steals about winners at war, and then it happened, and it's just like, I can't believe they did this. Like, this is a Survivor fan's dream season. All winners. It does not get more legendary than that. The gameplay, or like the way that it played out, was definitely not ideal. All the old school winners were taken out in the beginning. That's tough. But going into a season with all winners, every week it's going to hurt who gets voted out, because these are all people that I've watched win and rooted for the most part. So every season, it's like one of my favorites is going home. That's just the nature of an all-winner season. The grandness of this season just cannot be exemplified. Has one of the best final threes ever. You've got... I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get there. Okay. But gameplay-wise, again, a lot of the pre-merge is just taking out old school players, taking out legends, Parvati, Boston Rob. You know, you get to the point where Denise makes the move against Sandra. That's great. Sandra, why? You were safe. You had an idol. Why did you give it to Denise and leave yourself vulnerable like that? I get it. If it had worked out, that's kind of a pretty gangster move by Sandra. All on the down low, she gets some fire tokens out of it. But because it didn't work out, it's such a bad move. Really makes Sandra's case for being like a top tier player that much harder. I don't think Sandra's a top tier player. I think Sandra. That's another day. That's another day, another topic. But just like so many people. Nick. They got like the Nick scenes of him like just waltzing in. Great editing. I love Nick. A lot of pre-merge time was spent on like the Wendell Michelle dynamic because they used to date. And it didn't even amount to anything cool. I thought it was gonna amount to like Michelle getting her revenge on Wendell being an asshole after they broke up and like blindsiding him. But no, Wendell just gets voted out and Michelle didn't even vote him out. Like, that was kind of a weak lead up. Tyson getting voted out pretty early kind of hurts. Him coming back from the edge was awesome. Tyson and his peanut butter was awesome. But then he just gets voted out again, which is pretty sad. I do like the Edge in this case because I love all of these characters, and I don't know how many times I'm going to see these winners come back at this point. Like, it was good because it, like, they get voted out. Like, I knew going into this I was gonna have 14 episodes of Ethan. I was gonna have 14 episodes of Yule going into the season. So, like, I knew this, and I was like, happy that I get those. And it would have been a lot different if, for example, Natalie Anderson. Yes, I've been waiting for her to come back. She was supposed to come back for Game Changers. She got a concussion. She couldn't do it. Finally, she's coming back for Winners at War. This is so exciting. She gets voted out first, and I don't even get to know what could have happened. Like, that sucks. I'm so glad that they had Edge of Extinction as just someone who loves these characters. These tribe members, these castmates, or cast members, whatever you want to call them. As a viewer, I'm so glad that they had it. And again, I still don't like it as a gameplay mechanic. I like it pre-merge. You can end it at the merge. I'm fine with it. Give someone that got voted out early a chance. Don't need to bring somebody back at Final Six. Adam's a total goober. I love him. Jeremy leaving the tribal and then Kim misplaying her idol. That was a cool tribal. Tony and Sarah, Cops RS, one of the coolest duos to ever play the game. Or one of the best duos. I don't know why I say coolest. I think Sarah's so lame. Sarah is... I do not find Sarah cool. Fire tokens, coming into this, I'm like, dude, that's so stupid. But they were not, like, too gameplay intrusive, and they did add, like, a little something that, like, I know the winners could handle. Like, I do think having that just extra element for these winners was kind of cool. Give them, like, something extra to play at, because they're just on another caliber, because they're all winners. Natalie beasted out at the end, and on the Edge. She gets voted out first. No, she runs the Edge of Extinction. That place is hers. Kills the last challenge, and then idle at final, or what does she get? Immunity at final 6, idle at final 5, immunity at final 4, I think. Like, she's safe at every tribal council. Once she gets back, she really beats her way to the end. At final 5, Ben lays down his sword for Sarah and actively ruins her game. Why would Ben do that if he wants Sarah to win? Sarah will beat Ben at the end. Ben should have, like, been there to help get her to the end instead of laying down and dying at 5, not giving Sarah that number that she might need at 4, and Sarah gets taken out at 4. Also, that fighter making between Tony and Sarah is a moment, especially when Sarah almost won. Like, I knew going into this that Tony was going to win the season. And the editing almost got me to think that I was wrong, that I had it wrong, because Sarah's fire looked like this close to snapping that flag. But it didn't happen. Tony, who literally doesn't make fire at all, won the fire making challenge and played a really, really good game. Like, Tony getting advantage screwed over by that one that, like, made him pay like 6 fire tokens, or he loses his vote or something like that, or can't compete in the challenge or something like that. Manages it perfectly fine, and then also wins that immunity, and then is able to, like, repay back some of the people. So he, like, built alliance members and, like, grew the bonds with people through this disadvantage. Also, Tony wins 4 immunities. That's pretty sick. Michelle scratched her way to the end yet again. She knew what she needed to do to survive. She gets really lucky at 5 that Ben lays down his sword for Sarah. Otherwise, Michelle gets voted out at 4, or at final 5. And then now Michelle is the only returnee to make it to the end twice and never be voted out. Other than Scoopin', but we don't count him because one of his was a medevac. Also, Sophie, how can I forget? Sophie was one of the frontrunners to win the game, and Tony perfectly blindsided Sophie and holds on to Sarah afterwards, which is great gameplay by Tony. He knew exactly when he had to take Sophie out, and she had an idol in her pocket. But just all in all, like, it's all winners. Like, this season played out, like, not that bad. I mean, also, Tony winning also saved this season. If Sarah wins the season, Winners at War is not this high. It is kind of crazy that Yule does get swap screwed by staying with his alliance and having the numbers. Oh, I forgot that Natalie was mean to you on the edge. Colton. Oh no, you got me. Colton was never voted out either. Alright, that's fair. Colton and Michelle. Who's the real best player? Alright, Simon, this next one you might not want to listen into. And that's because the next season I'm going to watch, I know you haven't finished, and that is Survivor Tocantins. I don't think you finished it, at least. Great newbie season. For someone like, even like if someone was trying to get into Survivor, I would totally be down to recommend Tocantins for them because it introduces them to so many great characters in JT, Steven, Tyson, Coach, with it all being their first seasons. Oh, you finished it? Let's go, Simon. But I mean, like, the JT Steven dynamic is awesome. It's so funny that everyone wants JT to win. Like, Brendan literally says, like, I want JT to win even over myself, kind of. Like, that's nuts. And JT is just like this nice southern country guy. So, and then we get Coach, being the Dragon Slayer, being this, mighty being of his. We have Tyson, the assistant coach. We've got him being a huge jerk to Sierra, winning the first couple of immunities, being more of a jerk to Sierra, and then getting blindsided by her. That was awesome. We get the Taj at the family. Taj wins the family visit, and then like has to make the choice between like her going to see her loved one versus everyone else going to see her loved one. But then in like a secret twist, like she also gets to see her loved one and go to Exile Island with her. And Taj's reunion or reaction to that is just amazing. We get to the end game. JT goes on his immunity run. JT actually plays the perfect game. Gets every vote at the end. Never is voted against throughout the entire season, and then also wins the back then they used to do like the sprint player of the season or whatever. It's like fan favorite. And JT won that and won extra money, I'm pretty sure. Interesting. That's true. But just like these characters, they're just so like Tyson, one of the best. Coach, one of the best characters. Steven, not one of the best like characters necessarily, but a character in Survivor history and extremely likable as well. I just wouldn't put him on the level of Coach or Tyson. Oh, Seven, you're definitely off. China's pretty far up. Yeah, we got a ways before we get to China. Next one is one that I definitely used to think was There you go. There you go, Simon. You got it. I used to think that this one was like way higher up on my list, and it's like when I, especially like compared to everything else that I have left, I massively prefer the other ones. And that is Blood versus Water. Yeah, Blood versus Water is at like when it first came out, it was my favorite season. Granted, I had only seen a few seasons of Survivor at this point, but great idea. Created the whole Blood versus Water theme, created an element of gameplay that had never been seen before, with loved ones. I love that they brought in a Big Brother winner in Hayden. Not that I love Hayden anymore, but this is what got me into Big Brother. I was just like, oh, this Hayden guy is like pretty good at Survivor, and he won Big Brother. Let me go check that out. And now I love Big Brother, even though this past season sucked. But I love that they brought in Big Brother winner in Hayden, and that he played very well. Honestly, he played better than when he won Big Brother. Maybe that's up for debate. I don't know. Pre-jury, we get Colton quitting for the second time. That's pretty cool. We get the tribal immunity challenge where the loved ones are paired against each other and they have to hit each other off. It's not necessarily loved ones pitted against each other, but they have to go against each other and hit them off into the water. And you have like the Aris and Vetus battle where like Vetus pretends to be down and Aris is like, okay, get up, and then Vetus gets him wow, he isn't looking, and then R still wins. Like that's just such a cool like moment to watch. You've got Vetus, getting swap screwed, where he's down 4-1, and then the tribe loses 2 in a row, and Vetus manages to survive both of those pre-merge votes, and he shouldn't have. You get Brad Culpepper running his tribe, but is hated by the women, and then gets blindsided, and then is hated even more on Redemption Island. You get Laura killing it on Redemption. You get Tino always getting second on Redemption, but managing to, get her way out to the end. You get Sierra voting out her mom, which, as much as Jeff overhypes this moment, is a pretty crazy moment. Like, voting out your mom, that's pretty nuts. Then you have the final 6 rock draw, where Hayden convinces Sierra to flip onto her side. And that's so cool. Hayden's somehow safe. And then you've got a rock draw between Katie, Tyson, and Sierra, which could totally change the season up, which it doesn't because, Tyson's safe. And Tyson claims, because Tyson had an idol at this point, but he claims that he doesn't use this idol because in his head, he's a betting man, and he placed his odds at a 66% chance of winning the season, which is basically like, it was his rock draw odds. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll go to rocks because that gives me a 2/3 chance of getting past it and then winning the whole season. And he does. That's what he does. What's kind of crazy, though, is at the end, at the final 4, it's Tyson, Jervis, Monica, and Tina. Tina wins if Tina gets to the end, even against Tyson. Thankfully, that doesn't happen, though, because I love Tyson as a winner. And it just was really nice watching Tyson win in a pretty dominant fashion after his first 2 performances were pretty jokish, in a sense. But the season as a whole, I mean, you got Tyson, you got Hayden, you got Sierra, Jervis, Vetus, Tina, Laura, Caleb even. Like, you've got some, really good people, and I have this as just a good season. I would watch this season without complaints. Rupert balled out. If Tyson doesn't win the season, well, so here's the thing. If Hayden wins the season, it's still not as highly regarded. I think Tyson wins the season. For me, it's where it's at. Hayden wins the season, it's a bit lower. Anyone else wins the season, it's a lot lower. Maybe not as low as C-, but you don't get a Hayden or Tyson win, like, this season's going to tank bad. So very lucky that Tyson has managed to pull that one out. All right, we are down to our last. Oh my god, I still have 9 seasons. It sucks because these are the ones that I want to talk about too. All right. Next, this is a newer season. All newbie cast. Very entertaining. Lots of people come to play. Post-merge, very exciting. Pre-merge, medium bits, not as exciting. I have Survivor. Not David vs. Goliath. You kidding me? That season's great. I got Millennials versus Gen X. Oh, what a bait. Yeah, I've got Millennials versus Gen X. This is such a great season. Going into this, I'm like, what a theme. Millennials versus Gen X. It's just old versus young. Like, they've done this theme a couple times in the past already. But man, these players were here and they were there to play. David is amazing the entire way through. Love him. Love that from start to end. He's doing his thing. He's scrapping his way through. He's playing idols. He's, manipulating, using social strategy. Even wins an immunity or something like that. In the beginning, he uses an idol on Jessica when Jessica doesn't trust him to gain trust with her when she would have gone home. David saves her, and because of that, then Jessica is like in Ken and David's corner. You have a moment like Ken being too noble, too much of like an honorable guy, and tests Will at some point and just betrays him in this test of his. I'll never forget Adam just being like, talking to the confessional about this, and he's like, Ken, that's not a test, that's a betrayal. And that's the moment that I realized that Ken was not a good, like, player. Like, I thought Ken was going to have, like, respect going, like, throughout, like, the beginning part of the season. And then you get to this point, and it's just like, oh, like, people are just like, Ken's on his high horse thinking that he's so honorable or whatever. But he wasn't going to get the respect of the jury. You get Taylor ratting out Adam's steal of reward advantage. You've got the Adam and Jay dynamic with their moms and with their rivalry and being friends but being enemies in the game. It's like, we will never see a dynamic like Adam and Jay again. That was such a unique duo dynamic, and it was so incredible to watch. It was so interesting. You've got the moment at the family visit where Adam tells everybody about his advantage, but that he can't use it because he couldn't take away. So, like, that moment was so powerful. And then because of that, Jay takes Adam on the reward, even though they're not working together. And he's like, you could have done it and you didn't, so I'm going to bring you. And then Adam gives Jay the advantage. And then Jay uses the advantage and brings Adam because he gave the advantage. Like, there's just so much with them. You've got, the Zeke versus David war. You got rocks at, what was it, final 10? That's crazy. You got, 6 or 7 people drawing rocks. Then you've got, Zeke gets taken out, but David manages to, stay time after time. He wins an immunity. He just manages to convince Hannah to not vote him out and to instead vote out Brett. You've got, somehow they vote out Sunday over voting out David. That is crazy. Sunday is a nobody, and David manages to convince them to keep him. I'm pretty sure David was the other vote if Sunday doesn't go home. I could be wrong though. You got, Ken winning a bunch of immunities using the legacy advantage. Not that I'm trying to hype up Ken, but at least, like, you have that physically dominant player. You have Brett coming out as gay to Zeke. Just on a reward casually. Like, that was such a cool moment as well. You get David making the fake idol for Jay, and Jay taking the bait and thinking he's safe in that tribal council. What a great tribal council. You've got Adam at final tribal council telling everybody about his mom in such an emotional moment. And then Adam sweeps the jury, and I love Adam as a winner. Like, I think Adam is such a great archetype and such a great, like Adam is the fan that won Survivor. And that's so cool to me. Jessica Rockdraw is so sad. She did not deserve to go out that way. Alright, now we're down to the last 8. And for the last season that I have in my A tier, I do have... A lot of people have this season as their number 1, which I think that it is just a little too old for me to be at number 1. Call me a boomer or whatever, but I do like my HD seasons. Or a zoomer. Oh, not a boomer. But I also do like... I don't love the current... I don't know. I just don't love early Survivor that much. But I do have Survivor Pearl Islands at the top of my A tier. Call me a boomer, but I like middle school Survivor. And then call me a zoomer. But Pearl Islands is a lot of people's favorite season, which I do understand. The start of the season is so fun and so funny. They surprise the contestants. With the start of the season, they thought that they were all going to a photo shoot for like pre-Survivor pictures, and then they're just like, "Nope, you're starting right now." That's awesome. So they're in this like town or whatever, and they have a certain amount of money that they can go and buy stuff with, like supplies or whatever, to get them started. But they only have like the clothes that they have with them to wear and like the shoes or whatever. So while people are going to sell stuff, Rupert goes over to the other tribe's boat and takes all of the shoes that they left in there and goes and barters it off for more supplies. That is so funny to me. Like, That's such a cool moment. Rupert's like, I'm gonna go steal their shoes. They left them in there. I'm gonna go barter them for some, food or for some supplies, some pots and pans maybe. Like, that's just so awesome. Um, then you've got, getting into the actual season, you've got Burton wanting to throw tribal immunity so that he can eliminate some of the weaker members on his tribe, and it works. And then they voted out Burton instead, and that's a little bit of karma right there. And then we get to around the merge time, and we've got the Outcast twist, which I like. I think, especially at this point in Survivor, this was unexpected. It was the next thing to do at this point, was to like bring back people of that had been voted out. So how it worked, you had your two tribes, and then the Outcast tribe came in, and they were offered an opportunity for some voted off people to return. All three competed in a challenge, and any tribe that the Outcast tribe beat, that's one player that they would get to vote back in. So if they only beat one tribe in the challenge, they'd get one person. But the Outcast tribe beat both of the other tribes, so they got to bring back two people, one of them being Burton, and then one of them being Lil, who is important in the rest of the season, because she obviously makes it to the end and loses to Sandra. Then, a bit ways, or sometime afterwards, you got Rupert screaming at Johnny Fairplay because Johnny Fairplay voted for Rupert in a tribal, and Rupert did not like that. You've got Johnny Fairplay and the grandma story. At the family reward, Johnny Fairplay pretends that his grandma passed away so he can garner sympathy from his tribe mates. They pick him for the reward and all that stuff, and then it's revealed that his grandma's at home watching Jerry Springer, and that he made up his grandma dying. And that was kind of just like a whoa, like, I can't believe this guy just did this moment. Like, he's doing whatever it takes to win. Such an iconic moment. After, basically, on the topic of Johnny Fairplay, he sort of perfects Rob Cesternito's strategy of flipping back and forth so that you're always going to be with the numbers, and like the numbers are kind of forced to work with you. Flipping between alliances and keep backstabbing and stuff. Ultimately, though, loses the last immunity challenge to Lil. Lil brings Sandra to the end, and this is Sandra's first win. You got some notable players from this season. You got Sandra, Rupert, Johnny Fairplay, Andrew Savage, Austin Taylor, who was the first quit on Survivor, Lil, Burton, that kind of thing. Alright, we are getting to the bottom. I want to go for some Pearl Islands watch too. I haven't watched Pearl Islands in a long time. But last 7. This season is my first season of Survivor that I watched, which might bias my opinion, but damn, I'm so glad that this is the first full season I watched, because this was a good one to get started with. First season I have my A+ tier, Survivor Philippines. I think the idea of bringing back 3 people that were medevaced is a cool thing. You're not bringing back like 3 legend, you're just bringing back 3 people that, had their last time out on the island cut short, and bring them back for another shot. You got Scoopin, who fell in the fire. You got Russell Swan, who like almost died in Samoa after collapsing during Tribal Immunity Challenge. And then you got Penner, who I think his knee got infected or something like that in Micronesia, and was pulled from that. The newbies, great rookie cast. You got Malcolm, you got Denise, you got Lisa, you've got Jeff Kent, Pete, Artis, Carter, RC. Like you've got some pretty strong fighters in there. But the way that the season starts is that there's 3 different tribes, and then one of the tribes loses the first 4 immunities. So you start out with 6 people, and then you get down to 2, where it's just Malcolm and Denise. And then each of them, respectively, were absorbed into another tribe. And then Denise's tribe loses every subsequent tribal immunity as well, making Denise the only person that has ever gone to every tribal council in the season. I'm pretty sure, to this point, she's still the only person to ever do that. And she goes to final tribal council, and she wins it. Like, that's crazy. Malcolm easily becomes a fan favorite, like, almost immediately. Survives votes in the beginning, is, like, getting so much screen time because he's on the tribe that always loses. Survives a close vote against Pete, finds an idol, wins some immunity challenge. Like, he does everything. He's got the long hair. He's America's sweetheart. In the pre-merge, you get Sarah Dawson teasing Jeff Kent, knowing that he's a professional baseball player, or was, that Jeff Kent has made millions of dollars playing baseball. But she never tells anybody because Jeff Kent kept it a secret. But Sarah would just tease him and be like, "Oh man," I'm like, "Don't you just wish you could go to the ballpark today?" Something like that. Knowing that, like, Jeff Kent might get paranoid about that. Definitely not good strategy. She gets voted out soon afterwards. But never tells people that he's a baseball player, so that's at least nice of her. You got artists getting voted out with an idol. You've got Penner's heart-to-heart with Lisa, saying that he recognizes what she must have gone through being like a child actor and like all the pressure that's put on you as a child. And that really gets her, and it gets her to flip onto Penner's side. So that's a great move. You've got Penner surviving a few tribals, wins immunity, has an idol, and that sort of thing before eventually getting sent off. But his send off was touching. It was definitely with class. He went out like a champ. You got Abby Maria lying about having an idol, winning an immunity. Like, that's a common factor, is that you have someone become a target, they win immunity. Happened to Malcolm, Penner. Well, maybe it didn't happen to Malcolm, but happens to Penner, happens to Abby. It just happens. Then you've got Malcolm, Final Four, wins reward to win an advantage in the Final Four immunity challenge. And then he messes up in the beginning, and then he messes up in his first out in the actual immunity challenge. And Malcolm still has a chance to make it to the end, but he ruins his shot of making it to the end by telling Denise that he would have voted her out. Because Denise was going to vote to keep him, and that at least gives Malcolm making fire against Lisa, which Malcolm probably wins against Lisa, and then Malcolm wins the season against Denise. And then what's pretty funny is you do have Scoopin at the end thinking that he could beat everybody, including Malcolm, which is pretty delusional. But yeah, this season you've got characters. You got Malcolm, you got Denise, I already said all of these names, but you've got some notable players, which is why this is in my A+ tier. Alright, down to 6. This season, again, a lot of people probably have this in like their S tier, but I think this is in a good spot right where it is at 6, and that's going to be Survivor Micronesia. This was the first time that we have like a returnee season that's good. I'm not counting Guatemala as a returnee season, and All Stars was not very good. But fans versus favorites, what a cool idea. Originally, it was supposed to be All Stars 2, but they didn't have enough people that they wanted to bring back from seasons 9 through 15, so they only went with a half All-Star cast. The beginning was definitely shaky. You got Johnny Fairplay quitting, and then Yaman getting voted out. But then after that, you also have Penner getting medevaced. But after that, that's when things start to pick up. You get Ozzy finds an idol on Exile Island. Then you've got Jason going to Exile Island and then finding the idol that Ozzy put in there, which is just a stick with like a face carved into it. And Jason's like, dang, this is the idol for sure. This is it. And then you've got Eliza, and he like gives it to Eliza. And he's like, Eliza, I got the idol. It's right here. Eliza sees it. And it's like, Jason, it's a fucking stick. What a moment. That's so funny. And then Eliza, has to use it, and then, Jeff throws it in the fire, and Ozzy's all like, Jeff, come on, that took me hours to make that. But you get Eliza getting voted out, and then the Black Widow Brigade really starts to take over. You got Ozzy being blindsided, which also severely blindsides Amanda before, Amanda, they wanted to take out Amanda, but they couldn't. James is then taken out due to another medevac, which is definitely tough on the season. Then you've got a scene, I think it's final 6? Yeah, final 6. And like they don't do this really ever, but it was going into tribal. Amanda knew that she was going to get voted out, and she was looking for the idol, and then it cuts a commercial before you know if she found it or not, and then it just brings you straight to tribal, so you still don't know. But Amanda does use her idol, because she did find it. She's safe, which sends Alexis home. And then at this point, we're at the final 5, which is the infamous Eric immunity give up. Eric had won the past 2 immunities. He was on a bit of an immunity run and probably could have continued that, but Suri got in his head and convinced him to give up his immunity necklace to Natalie, saying that they would vote out Amanda. They don't, and Erica gets voted out. We get to the final 4. We got Natalie, Amanda, Parvati, and Suri. They're all expecting a final 3, so they vote out Natalie at final 4. Figured the final 3 is going to be Parvati, Suri, and Amanda, which I've heard, if this was the final 3 that it was supposed to be, it would have been a close vote. It would have been 3-2-2 for Suri, or 3 versus 2 versus 2 for Parvati. That's pretty nuts. That all 3 people at the final tribal were going to get at least 2 votes. But it's revealed because of the James medevac. I guess that messed up the amount of challenges that they were supposed to do, or like stuff like that. So they made it a final 2 instead. Amanda won both the final 2 immunities, and she takes Parvati because she knows that she can't beat Suri, and then Parvati wins in a 5-3 vote. A lot of great characters on this season. I mean, you got Parvati, Amanda, Suri, and Natalie at the final 4. You've got Eric, what a character, the fan versus favorite guy. And then you've even got people like Jason, Eliza, Alexis, sort of. James, even like Penner, and even just the nods that Yao Man and Johnny Fairplay were on the season. Like, it's a good season. Middle of A+2 for me. I agree. Dude, I love Cambodia, Simon. You should know this. Cambodia is in my top team. But for my last season in A+ tier, I do have Survivor China. Survivor China was the first season of Survivor that I went back and watched after I got into it. And this is just such a good season. Oh my god. Todd, Courtney, Amanda's first time, John Robert, James, Frosty, Peach, all new all new players, all absolute beasts. I love this season. In the beginning, you got John Robert being like this big bumblebee poker player type of guy. Todd uses this to his advantage. You've got Courtney. She hates everybody, especially John Robert. Then we've got, throughout the season, we get like a Todd, Courtney, Amanda, and Denise power alliance. One thing that is kind of like iffy about this season is that at no point was anybody from the other tribe ever really like gonna win. Even just like based off the edit, like the edit was very focused on like the Todd, Courtney, Amanda, Jean Robert, James, Denise side of things. But at least, like on the other side, you've got Frosty. He's fun. It's pretty funny when he runs into Todd and Amanda when they're finding the hidden immunity idol, so that they have to like let Frosty in on it, even though they're not aligned with them. You've got them giving the idol to James, who's on the other tribe at this point. The idol, telling him where to find that tribe's idol, and then telling James to throw the next immunity challenge and to use the idol to save himself and vote out one of like the other tribe's top members. And then James literally can't throw the challenge. He can't do it. Like, he tries to. He gives them every opportunity for the other tribe to win, and they just don't win, so he has to win. So now he's safe, and he has 2 idols in his pocket. We get to the merge. We get Todd blindsiding John Robert, because John Robert started to, come to Todd with these ideas. It was like, hey, like, we should be doing this. And Todd, made sure to tell Jean Robert and Tribal Council by pampering him was like, you started to do what I wanted. Like, you started playing the game that I wanted to play. That's how I knew that you were the threat to me. So I had to take you out. Todd is one of the best final tribal performances of all time during this, which is pretty good. Todd, I think, is a very good winner. Todd is probably my number 3 one-time winner behind Earl and Tommy. But like someone that's played one time, not someone that's won one time. You've got at the final 7, Todd blindsiding James with 2 idols in his pocket, which is so risky. Todd goes home, I'm pretty sure, if James uses one of his idols. So that is a really risky move by Todd, but it really pays off. You've got PG being the last remaining member from the other alliance, taken out at 5. Todd never wins immunity, which is pretty cool. Goes to the end with Courtney and Amanda after they take out Denise at 4. And Todd wins in a 4-2-1 vote. It's cool to see that everyone gets a vote, especially when there's only 7 jurors. Fun fact, in the finale, the America's favorite sprint reward was between James and Denise. And James won. And there's like a cash prize to it. And then Denise talked about how she was sad because she got fired from her job being a cafeteria lunch lady by going on, like, she didn't get fired, but she didn't get her job back when she got back from Survivor. So CBS gave her money, and then later found out that she was lying about it and actually did have her job still. So there's just a little bit of trivia right there. I don't think that Cambodia S-tier is absolutely insane, because Cambodia, coming off of Worlds Apart, the hype leading into this season. So here, I'll run you through a little thing, because Cambodia is the top season for me in S tier. Or not the top season, sorry. The bottom season. The next season we're talking about. Cambodia is coming off of a time right after Worlds Apart. Cambodia is coming off a time where we voted in the cast for the only time ever. We got somewhat of a choice about who would be on the season and who wouldn't. That is, like, that's great. So much hype going into this season. Right after Cagayan, you're giving us Wu, Cass, Spencer, Tasha. Like, I'm the biggest Spencer fanboy. Spencer all the way. Throughout this season, I'm watching Spencer survive vote after vote by the skin of his teeth. He is barely getting there. Survives against Shireen, survives against Wu, survives against I don't know, Monica maybe. Just barely getting through vote after vote. You have chaos through everything. You've got pre-merge taking out some of the boring players like Monica and Varner, which is nice. I was sad to see Terry go home pre-merge, but he had to go home for his son. You get to the merge. You get also in the first episode, you get Kelly grabbing the idol during a challenge. That had never happened before. That that gave me a little some goosebumps, raising the hair on my arm, like, oh my god, is she gonna get caught? How ballsy. They got her grabbing the idol during the challenges. All the way that the idols were hidden this season, I thought, were super cool. You get Cass deciding to keep Spencer over Wu, which is crazy. Like, Cass and Spencer working together, that was, like, unexpected for me. And then subsequently, the next tribal, Spencer votes out Cass, and Cass goes home. Like, such back and forth craziness. Kelly Wentworth uses her idol. Andrew Savage goes home. That's pretty nuts. The whole idea of voting blocks are established. Kelly Wigglesworth being there on its own is really awesome, which is good because she didn't do anything this season, so at least just name value alone made it interesting that she was there. You've got Steven's obsession with getting Joe out to the point where people are going to vote out Steven. You've got Jeremy saving Steven with an idol, making Sierra go home. And then the next episode, Steven just goes home again. Steven just goes home regardless. Like, Jeremy saves Steven for one round, and then Steven just goes home the next episode. It didn't even matter. He was and Steven was so hung up about taking out Joe because last time he let the Golden Boy get to the end, and that cost him the game, and he didn't want to do it again. You've got Joe being immune for literally ever, safe all throughout the pre-merge, wins every tribal immunity challenge. Then, in once the merge happens. He wins the first 4 immunities. He is safe all the way up until the 5th round at the merge. That is crazy. Also, this was at the time when Joe was Joe was the guy on Survivor at this point. Joe was the Malcolm of this time period, even though this also was still Malcolm time period. Spencer also kicks out a few. I think he wins 3 immunities this season, maybe only 2. I'm not sure. You get the final 6 vote with Jeremy and Kelly Wentworth, and they both get 3 votes, and they both use their idols, so they're both safe. And then on a revote, it's Tasha gets 3 votes and Kimmy gets 3 votes. To the point where if they can't decide, then Keith just goes home by default, and he's almost okay with that before he's finally like, all right, whatever, I'll vote Kimmy out. And that's awesome, because I thought Kimmy was boring. So for Kimmy to go, Kimmy's the optimal person to go out at that point. Then we get Keith going out, which sucks. And then at final 4, we do have Kelly Wentworth going out. I don't think that Kelly Wentworth played a super crazy good game, but I think Kelly Wentworth played an important game. That was an underdog game for the ages. Do I think it is overhyped? Absolutely. I don't even think she should have been on this season. She was a nobody on San Juan Del Sur. I totally forgot that's even where she came from. I didn't talk about her once when I talked about San Juan Del Sur, because I just forgot. I think Dale is more interesting from that season. But anyways, I think this is a great game. Jeremy definitely deserves the win, which is tough because as a Spencer fanboy, I wanted Spencer to win. But Jeremy definitely deserved the win. You got people like Jeremy, Spencer, Wentworth, I guess, from the season, Joe at the time, Steven, Sierra Easton, Abby, Keith. This is an all-star cast, and it was so chaotic. I loved it. This is just a season that I really enjoyed. Now, down to our last 3. Kaguya, David versus Goliath, and Heroes versus Villains. This is tough for me, especially at this point. But number 3 is, in my opinion, David versus Goliath. I think this is the second best all newbie season. Once you hit 2 tribals before the merge, it's a 10 out of 10 season. Start out with the Alec flipping on Natalia, getting her voted off. Next episode, you get Mike and Angelina flipping on Natalie instead of voting Lisa. You get the Natalie jacket situation. Are you serious? Come on, that is S tier on its own. Then you make it to the merge. Everyone gets together for 1 vote. They're all okay, we can agree on stuff, perfect. Then boom, minority split vote on John. We're crazy tribal council. Dan wastes his idol on Angelina at this point. You've got next episode, Dan goes home, uses his idol. After Carl uses his idol nullify on him, Dan is just what the heck is going on? 2 episodes. 2 episodes before, he had 2 idols. Then he wasted it on the first one, and then he couldn't use it on the second one. Crazy. Next episode, Alec versus Christian, 6-hour immunity challenge. What? That is the challenge of the season. That is a crazy one, with Christian edging out Alec. And when Alec is talking, it's Christian, I need this immunity. You don't need this. If I don't win this, I'm going home. And Christian just talking to him and being yeah, I know, but I don't know if I'll ever get this chance again, so I can't let go. That's powerful. That's you're right, Christian. You don't know if you'll ever get this chance again. You need this. And he did, and he won, and that's awesome. Fortunately, that does lead to Alec going home in one of the more predictable tribal councils, but that's okay because they gave us such a good immunity challenge. After that, you've got Carl on his power trip thinking he's on top of the world, then he's blindsided and voted out. Then you've got Gabby wanting to flip on Christian. Christian at the last second is hold on, I'm going to use my idol. Uses the idol, then Gabby's taken out because of it. Then, unfortunately, we do have the back-to-back of Christian and David going home, but it was necessary. It had to happen at some point. Was sad. I would have loved to see either of them win. Then There at this point, once Davey goes home, you've got 3 individual immunity wins for Nick. He goes on an immunity run to finish out the season. You've got the Angelina idol mishap at the waterfall where she loses the clue and then can't find it and then needs help. And then makes like the fake idol for Allison, which was super cringy, but man, I hate Allison, so that's fine with me. And then you've got Nick winning Final Four, Kara going home at Final Four, which is good. I think the Final Three of Nick, Mike, and Angelina was a deserving Final Three. I think the way that the votes turned out was good. I'm glad that. I mean, I do think that I like Angelina as a character. That would have been cool if she got 1 vote, but I do think that Nick deserved most of the votes and that Mike did deserve some of the votes as well. And then look at the characters on this season. Nick, Mike. I keep saying characters like this is like a movie. Like, look at the people that are on this season. Nick, Mike, Christian, Angelina, Davey, and then like Gabby, Carl, Natalie, John, Alec, Dan, Dan and Kara aren't like the craziest like cool people. But the fact that those are the people at like 11 and 12, that means that this is a pretty damn good season. Even people like Pat, Lirsa, it's just such a good season. And that's why it's at my number 3. I agree. I do think that these 3 are like I don't want to say like the definitive top 3 because people can have their opinions. I know a lot of people love Micronesia. They put that in their top 3. People love Pearl Islands. They put that in their top 3. But for me, it's David versus Goliath, Heroes versus Villains, and Cagayan. I am fine with that in any order. I don't know if I'm at the point yet where I can put David versus Goliath at number 1. I can put it at number 2. But for now, I don't know, maybe, because it is a pretty awesome season. But anyways, next, my number 2 season of Survivor is Heroes versus Villains. Now this is a true all-star cast. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure if we could, we're gonna include games played after Heroes versus Villains as well. Just because they're the players, it doesn't really matter if it was beforehand or afterwards. I believe 17 of them have been to the final, the finale. Out of the 20. That is an all. Besides Winners at War, you're not getting another cast that has that many people make it to the end. These are real legends. Russell finds countless idols. Again, you've got JT giving his idol to Russell. You've got JT giving his idol to Russell. You've got Colby telling it to Russell, and then Russell being like, yeah, because nobody knew how Russell played at this point because Russell's season hadn't aired. Russell still thought, I think at this point he still thought that he had won Samoa. So he's going into this season thinking that he's already won the previous season. But you've got JT giving an idol to Russell, thinking that Russell's on the bottom. You got Russell convincing Tyson to flip his vote, and then Tyson basically voting himself out because of that. Once Russell uses an idol on Parvati, which is also such a badass move. Knowing that it's going to be like a 3-3-3 vote, and then you have an idol and you don't use it on yourself. If Tyson doesn't flip his vote, Russell uses his idol on Parvati. Parvati's safe, and then it's a tie vote between Russell and Tyson, and then Russell goes home. That's just unbelievable gameplay. That is gameplay on another level. The villains absolutely dominate the season. You've got Parvati's double idol play. JT gets voted out basically by his own idol that he gave to Russell. You got Colby being a little bitch the entire season. Especially Colby was Captain America going into this season, and then he just was not there to play this season, and it was tough to watch. It's who described it perfectly? I don't remember who it was, but basically it was like seeing Captain America in a fat suit. That's what Colby was like this season. You got Sandra, who basically tries to work with the heroes, but it doesn't work, and ultimately that gives her the win because, like, at the end, she's basically telling the heroes, like, that mostly make up the jury, like, hey, I tried to work with you. I wanted Russell out the whole time, but you guys just wouldn't work with me. They found her more honorable. Her only goal was to get out Russell, and it doesn't work, which also gives her the win because she beats Russell handily at the end. A fun moment is Danielle, Di Lorenzo, and Amanda fighting while Colby just wants to watch Treasure Island. Like, that's so funny. Russell thinking that he can beat Sandra and Parvati at the end is funny. He can't. He takes Jerry out at 4, which he also. Russell is not beating these people. Russell's not beating Jerry. It doesn't matter who he takes out. But Russell takes out Jerry at 4, and then Sandra wins for the second time, which is crazy. I used to think that Parvati was so robbed at this point, but looking back, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I do. I don't. It's a tough one because, like, Sandra did not play very well this season. Sandra kind of lucked into the fact that, like, by her not playing well, it worked into her benefit. Like, not getting out Russell got her to the end with Russell, who she easily beats. She tried to work with the heroes, and the heroes never worked with her. And because of that, the heroes voted for her at the end. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think Sandra played good, but I don't think Parvati played, like, unbelievably amazing. I don't know. It's just something to think about. Alright. But, I mean, like, you've got Sandra, Parvati, Russell, Amanda, Rupert, JT, Colby, Jerry, even, like, Candace and Danielle. Those are all just people from the merge. You got Tyson, you got Boston Rob, you've got Courtney, you've got Coach, you've got, you know, Randy, you've got Tom Westman, you've got Steffi LaGrosse, you've got Sylvie. I don't care about Sugar. But, like, you have so many people. I might have just named everybody. I don't know. You got James there. Now I think I named everybody. Like, all of these people are just freaking rock stars. Yeah, I think I would have voted for Parvati too, but I don't know. It's like Sandra is just one of those people where it's like it's crazy that Sandra beats like Parvati and Russell. Well, maybe not so much Russell, but just like Sandra beats Parvati at the end, and everyone's just like, yeah, like that's okay. Actually, a lot of people aren't like that, but I'm like that. My last season, my number 1 season, in my opinion. Although, ask me in 6 months, I think I changed my mind on this one. This season is starting to slowly dip down for me. But at the moment, this is still my number 1 season of Survivor. This season is all out balls to the wall from the very first episode, and that is great. This season never stops going full throttle. The Brains tried. They suck. Garrett goes home with an idol in the 2nd episode. Blindsided. You got Spencer just, being unlucky. You got the Brains tribe is one of the worst tribes ever. You got Jatia going sicko mode on the rice and just absolutely pouring all of it out and going crazy. Then gets blindsided at the end. Thank God. Imagine if Spencer had gone home right then. This season would be so much worse. And again, another reason, I'm a huge Spencer fanboy. Spencer was the biggest underdog up to this point that I had seen before. So this was like, wow, like, I am rooting for this guy every time. And he's like a bit arrogant, and that's fine. It kind of works. You've got pre-merge. You've got Tony blindsiding Wu and Lindsay by voting out Cliff. And then Lindsay quitting right after because she thinks that she's going to punch Trish in her big old teeth, according to her. Like, that's so, like, that's a pretty big blindside. You get 2 people out with it, that's nuts. You've got Sarah figuring out that Tony's a cop. Start of Cops Are Us, even though Tony's not really about it. You got the merge coming. You got Sarah thinking that she's the swing vote. And then actually she gets voted off after Cass flips and Tony and LJ use idols on each other. That vote right there is a very defining vote. So much happens. You have two idols being used for each other, opposite people, and none of the votes matter. And then you've got them thinking that Jeffra's about to go home, and then you putting votes on the person that thinks they're in the middle, and then you get Cass to flip, and then Cass has 0% chance. Like, so much happens that tribal. Episode after this, you've got Spencer gets his idol clue. Wu finds it. Wu steals it. They chase after each other. You got everybody searching for an idol at this point, even Morgan. But luckily, at least for me, Spencer still manages to find it. Then you've got Tony blindsiding LJ in a brilliant fashion. Then Tony's side guesses that Spencer has the idol, and then they vote Jeremiah out correctly and get Spencer to waste his idol at this time. At this point, Tasha's in the midst of like a 3 immunity win in a row, I believe. She goes on a bit of an immunity spree. I think Spencer wins 2 or 3 immunities before and after this as well. You get Tasha voted out, which basically is just leaving Spencer as like this, the sole underdog. Spencer, I think, wins an immunity at this point. And they vote out Trish, which I'm still a bit confused on, but I'm not going to question the pros. Tony votes out Trish. Then comes Final Four. Cass wins in the challenge in an amazing comeback fashion. Then Spencer figures out, based off of Jeff's wording, that it's a final 2 and tries to convince Tony to vote out Wu and keep Spencer at that point, which honestly is not the worst strategy on Spencer's part. I think Spencer played that as best as he could. Unfortunately, that's just not how it went. And Spencer gets voted out at 4th. He was right, though. It is a final 2. So then at the final 3 immunity challenge, Wu beats Cass by less than a second, and that costs him the game. If Wu loses that challenge, Cass brings Wu to the end and Wu wins. But because Wu wins, Tony is able to convince Wu to bring Tony, which is the craziest move ever. Wu even says that would be the dumbest thing for him to do. And he does it. And he takes Tony to the end. That right there is still what makes this season the best for me. Tony did not win his way to the end, but Tony socially manipulated it. Like, he strategically manipulated his way to the end. And not only does that change how this season ends, that changes how everything ends. Tony doesn't win this season. Winners at War goes way differently. And that is mind-blowing. If Tony doesn't win this season, Sarah doesn't do nearly as well. I think Sarah gets voted out. Actually, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Sarah did pretty good on game changes without him. Who knows how Sarah does? But Tony wins in crazy fashion. Like, somehow manages to make his way to the end. Wins an 8-1 after playing the craziest game ever. One of the sickest to ever do it, definitely. And just like all of these new people on this season, you got Tony, Spencer, Wu, Cass, Tasha, Trish, Sarah, even like LJ, Jeremiah, Morgan, Jeffra, Garrett, Jatia, even David, the CEO in the beginning. Like, everyone was here to play. Everyone gave me a little bit of something on this season that I really enjoyed. And for now, it is my number 1 season. It is late. Lindsay was a dud, and that's fine. She quit, and she got out of the way real early. But this is my Survivor tier list in order. I'm not going through this in order. My voice is so gone. You can see. You've been here for the last 3 hours. You know what's going on. But definitely some stuff subject to change. Like placement at the top. Definitely like my B- tier. Like, at any point I could be like, you know what, I actually, on a rewatch, really like Survivor Guatemala, and then I move it up to B. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think I'm ever going to watch Survivor Guatemala again. But this was definitely cool. This took up so much effort. My voice is so gone. But I definitely enjoyed doing this. I was thinking about posting this to YouTube and editing it, but that seems like a lot of work, so I'm just going to post it to YouTube at some point. But yeah, that is my Survivor season ranking, 1 through 40. Hope you learned a little something. I'm going to go and raid somebody. I'm going to go raid Taryn Armstrong. That seems pretty fitting after this. This is fun. Alright, everybody. Take care. Good night.